Everyone hear me all right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I don't think I've ever talked to you before. Hello, I am
No, I
Ephraim.
don't think so. Hello. Is my there's stream. Hello, stream. Stream
Hello.
is being a mate of mine and just sitting in to make sure I don't get lost in the source. Is that all good?
That's fine.
Yep. We'll wait a few more minutes for other people to show up if they're able to make it.
Clear.
In that case, I'm
We'll
gonna
give it
be right.
5 just to be on the safe side.
Cool. I will drink coffee. Hello, Phineas.
Wait, hi, Mali.
Many fall in the face of chaos, but not this.
Ping the other person who wanted in here.
Untitled Sunny joined.
Hello, Sonny.
Many fall in the face of chaos, but not this one. Not today.
Lio, you might need to put a noise gate on.
I have one on. It's this dumb thing does it regardless. I'll just mute until I talk.
Alright, cool.
Muted.
But no, I should introduce myself.
Oh my God.
Hello, I'm Ephraim.
Hi, from
Hi, Hive.
it's like a AA meeting, just trying to figure out
Well, no,
who's who.
Well, I was trying to introduce myself to the people who I haven't talked to before, but that isn't working.
See, for me, the only person here I think I've not talked to before is Water Dorito. Also, hi, Water Dorito. Hope you're having a lovely day. But Yi, I hope y'all are all doing well.
Yes, hello.
I mean, that's actually not a bad idea for us to introduce like people who haven't met before, kind of introduce ourselves.
When Spice joined.
I think I know everyone here. But just in case. Hi. Hello, I'm here.
Hello.
What up?
I'm going to assume that's everyone, or are we waiting for anyone else?
Might as well get started then. All right, Ponder, you said that you've been talking to people, so would you like to lead this off for us?
Sorry, I just need like 2 more minutes.
No problem.
Who's messaging?
The also going to further note, if Doodletones actually has the intention of leaving, the actual leaving part is leaving the Discord servers. Just an FYI folks out there, asterisk cough cough Lio asterisk think Doodle should still be around in the servers. I am here to nip that thought in the bud. Lio is a terminally online prick that only cares about himself.
Who did that?
Probably not the time or place for a soundboard, please. I know we're all waiting and some people have to fidget, but let's not.
Okay.
You can talk a little bit amongst yourselves, just don't use the soundboard for goofiness.
To be fair, Lio, I have no idea how to use the soundboard.
How much longer are we gonna wait?
Until Ponder is able to get back to their PC, since Ponder is the one that requested we have this meeting concerning these things, so I'm going to honor that.
Okay. I don't, just as a heads up, I don't have like a ton of time. I have like probably the next hour. Just because I'm out with the kid and I want to spend time with her.
That makes sense. I understand. If you ever need to leave, just leave.
Mali, if you want to start with your concerns, that could work. Sorry, I do need just another couple minutes.
I'm good with that if everyone else is.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Unmuted.
A silly
Okay,
question
go ahead.
before we start. Can you just preface on what the point of the call is so everyone's up to date? I understand, but I'm just making sure everyone's in check, that they know what's going on. If anyone would like to explain that.
I'm not sure what exactly Ponder would like to talk about. I specifically want to have a talk about these kinds of discords, and I'm not sure if anyone else is chiming in.
Okay, bet. I shall continue.
Sorry, that was a little bit vague, but if I'm starting, then you'll find we'll get into it quick enough. So is that good for everyone?
Unmuted.
Yep.
Muted.
Totally fine.
Alright, coolio. I'll try not to take up too much of your time with this. I'm also going to be running off sort of a surface level knowledge in that most of us here have, seen the discourse around specifically Lio and Senate and all that kind of thing. And I want to bring that up so that we don't retread old ground, because we can waste tons and tons of hours doing that. So I'd like to just talk about things that I'm expecting we all have a basic understanding of. So I'm just throwing that out there. So I specifically have 3 questions I want to go over, and we'll go from there. So my first question is, why does Cat's Lair still have a peanut gallery? And anyone that's a mod here, more than welcome to answer.
For the sake of transparency, and sometimes the peanut gallery is able to bring about things and knowledge that we do not have about a situation or about a person that might be important.
Okay, so they're a research
However,
measure?
They can be, but I also note it's important to note that they are not allowed to ping the individual, and we also have a specific role now, thanks to Crystal, who is able to work her magic like she always is, to make it to where the individuals we bring into are not able to see the side chat, and the peanut gallery is incapable of talking.
So they're just your Twitch chat, essentially.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Okay. Why do you still have accountability calls in here?
Because sometimes I feel it's needed, especially if we're trying to help a situation or deal with something.
Okay. Well, what makes you think that you're in any way the appropriate person to still be doing that?
Because if we were to get down to semantics of that, nobody would be.
Yeah, that's sort of a cute answer and all, but you are someone who has done this for many years now, and you've proven that you are not the right person to do this. You've caused a lot of harm, so why are you still here?
All right, I'm going to answer that best way I can. Number one, a lot of harm. I guess it depends on what direction you're going with that. And secondly, the follow-up question would be, if that is the direction you're coming from, why do you think you have the ability to come and tell me that I shouldn't?
We're not talking about me right now. We're talking about how you've handled things that you've organized.
I see.
I'd like to stay on that point.
Okay. Sure.
Thank you.
Then let's stay on that point.
Okay. So, do you want to, like, I guess, try again? In why you think it's appropriate for you to still do this?
Because I think once tailored out of the problematic behavior or the troublesome aspects, that it's still a beneficial thing to do.
Okay. So you have
And again,
things to learn,
I
you're
still
saying.
want to help people.
Okay,
Clearly.
you're saying
And I
that
think
you have
I
things
have
to
for the most
learn.
part.
Okay, but you're doing that on the job, so to speak, and while you're doing that, people are still getting hurt. Like, it's great that you're having personal growth and you're figuring shit out. That's wonderful. But you're doing it at the expense of other vulnerable people. So if you cared about victims and vulnerable people, you would stop doing this. So why are you still doing this?
Who have I hurt?
Oh lord, okay, let's go down the list, shall we? Okay, so most recently, obviously, you have the situation with Rin. There's obviously the Rosa call. You've hurt people in much less severe ways, like obviously your friendship politics and all that kind of thing. I might throw myself too much into that because that's more of a personal thing. There's that, God, I forget their name, the kid that you called their school. That was not cool. There's probably countless peoples I don't even know the name of. But I guess you want a list of people that you've hurt. So you're aware that there's
asking who have
people.
I'm asking. You said that I've hurt people concerning this.
Yes.
Who have I hurt in the recent calls? Because you cite Rin,
Okay.
but nobody
LAIR,
can actually
hold
tell
on.
me what I've done wrong.
Please hold on. You're doing that thing again.
Go ahead.
I said when we started this, we're going to be working on a surface level knowledge. You know your own history. I know some of your history.
Yeah.
Most of the people here have either been here for some of these calls or have already watched them elsewhere. Can we not play the game of like, hey, can you prove to me this thing I already know? Like, unless, okay, let me maybe make this simpler. Do you think you haven't hurt people?
I think everybody has, so of course I have.
Okay, do you think you haven't hurt vulnerable people with these calls?
In some cases, I'm sure I have. My contestant
Then why are
there,
you still...
I don't think that...
No,
Go ahead.
Go on.
I don't know why you're getting frustrated with me. I'm keeping an even tone with you.
That's wonderful. I'm glad you're able to keep an even tone with me, but I am frustrated with you. That's why I'm getting frustrated. Because these calls are wrong and they should stop. And this Discord is wrong and it shouldn't exist.
Why are they wrong?
Because you're hurting vulnerable
Why?
people. You claim to want to help people, help victims, and they're causing harm. So if you cared about them, you would stop. Why keep doing it?
Ponder, I saw you unmute. You can say something if you want to.
Ponder Sprocket left. Ponder Sprocket joined.
B, are you good?
Unmuted.
Ponder, you okay?
I think B's still organizing their thing, which is fine because I'm not asking B this, I'm asking you this.
That's fine. I saw them unmute, so I assumed they had something to say. My answer, Mali, is because the 3 people I have brought in here specifically, the only 3 people we have had gallery calls over, are people who have hurt people on my staff or people who have harmed me. Or in one case, somebody that hurt a friend of mine and has been doing so for years.
Okay, so you have personal beef with them is the answer.
I have personal beef with at least one of them.
Okay, why is that now a public personal beef? Why are you wheeling this in front of gallery?
It had been. The problem I had with this person were problems they had done in public.
So yeah, it's a beef thing.
All of
so
them
it's not
had.
actually about helping a victim in that case. It's about airing out your grievance.
No, it can be both, because in one case, it's a grievance, in the other case, it's a victim.
And in both cases, you made the situation worse. So again, what's the end goal here?
I made it worse. How?
Really? You want me
Yeah,
to
really.
dissect? You want me to dissect how this was not a productive use of anyone's time and you just upset people? Because I don't particularly feel like that. Oh. No, you're fine, B. Is it? Do you
So
want to
I'm
jump
just
in on
supposed to take-
this, or is it
not-
you want to start your own thing? Okay, sorry, I just wanted to check. Go on. Lauren.
So, do you want me to take everything you're saying as factual and that it should be my value? Is that what you're asking me to grant you on this?
I'm telling you my value. You can do whatever you want with it. I
Okay.
think this is what I think. I think what you're doing is damaging, and there's no reason for it. And I think you should stop. And I think that you should at
Why?
least consider that.
Well, I'll tell you that I have considered it, and I still am in some cases, but I do not understand. This is something I've walked through with multiple people. Even had a call about it today with somebody I barely even know who wanted to ask about it. I do not understand why everybody is upset, specifically about the Ren call, because we didn't hear this about the Sasu call, and we certainly didn't hear this about the, what's his name? Rifleman J call.
Okay, I can answer that really simply
Those are the
because
ones
most
we
people
talked
don't
about.
know about those calls, and because the ring
Go
call
ahead.
just happened after you supposedly were changing for the better. That's why people are talking about the ring call. It is the freshest in a
What-
line of fuck-ups.
What behavior was terrible in the Ren call?
Okay, fine, we'll play this game. It was misleading that you got Rin into the call
Okay,
the way you
hold on.
did.
Hold on. I'm not... One moment. I'm not playing a game, Mali. I'm actually asking you questions. If you think I'm playing a game, you don't have to be here. I'm having you in here because I want to hear what you have to say. But if you're going to sit here and tell me that I'm playing games with you and I'm asking basic questions with you fully well knowing that I'm not here to dick around, I don't appreciate that.
Okay, I disagree. I still think you're playing a game with this because I feel you already know the answer to these questions and you're just trying to make me outline them to you so you can catch me out in something. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe it's not
No.
intentional. That is how it comes across to me. But do you want me to outline it, or are you happy to drop that line of thought?
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Outline it, please.
Okay. So obviously it was dishonest the way that you originally got them into the call. They weren't supposed to be here for you to air out your grievances with them. You told them they were going to be airing it out with someone else, and then in the end you tacked on your own problems. That was inappropriate. You basically lured someone in and then waylaid them. And given Rin's crimes in these instances were personal to you, doing that publicly, it's not appropriate. Obviously there were the threats, there was talking about getting their family involved, kind of just stuff we've seen before. Yeah, so
I never
I feel...
threatened them. Where does that... I never threatened them. Where does that come from?
Okay, I mean, obviously there's the threats of the family, getting them involved.
I didn't make any threats with the family. The only time I mentioned the family was to point out their inconsistent values concerning their father and the friends they have online concerning their public values. And I told them in no uncertain terms, I don't want to isolate you and I don't want to harm you. And if I had wanted that, I had avenues to do it. My point was I'm not that person and I'm not going to do that. How is that a threat?
Perfectly honest, that is not what I remember of that call, and I would have to, again, get the quotes out, which I don't particularly want to do, because again, that call has been gone over ad nauseum by so many people, and we're just rehashing old territory. I mean, Lio, do you... I guess, core question, do you disagree that you make threats towards people, and that you gather docs information, or say you're going to reach out to people's families?
It's not something I've done in quite some time. I have done it in the past, but I didn't do it to Rin.
Quite some time.
This. Yes, quite some time, because I haven't had to deal with that level of nonsense, because I've had enough of dealing with child predators and other types of things that have constantly ruined my health. My mental health, my physical health, how I treat people. Yeah, quite some time.
Okay,
Now-
and you don't think that saying you could do something isn't implied threats?
No,
You don't
I
think
don't
pointing
because
out
I'm
to a vulnerable you don't think pointing out to a vulnerable person, I could do this to you, I could hurt you in this way, is not a fucked up thing to do?
no, because I'm trying to explain to them that I don't do that and they're not in any sort of danger about it.
Alright, at best you're just handling that really poorly. At worst you're being dishonest. I don't know which it is. Either way, it's inappropriate, and you shouldn't be
So
doing that.
How is it inappropriate to let somebody who's vulnerable know that they're not going to get hurt?
It's the way in which you imply it. It comes across as a threat even if you don't mean for it to.
In fairness, if the person doesn't trust you, denoting the terrible things that you could do to them, if they don't trust you not to do it, it would just open up their mind to the notion of like, he can do all of these terrible things. What if he does at some point? And we have had instances where people have specified that they don't really trust you and that they're scared of you.
Bryn is an individual who would not only stalk and harass people like you, as you know, Ponder, but also had no problem using a platform that was supposed to be about victims to call me an abuser and to hash out personal beef with other SCC people. If they're able to do this publicly, why can they not be held accountable publicly?
Okay, I would like to point out, I know very, very little about Rin. The extent of my knowledge of the quote-unquote stalking was from, like, the 20 minutes I joined in at the end of the call. So...
Well, I apologize, and I thought you were more up-to-date on that.
Yeah.
That's my bad.
And of course, Rin is just a recent example. We're talking about this as a whole.
Okay, so you're talking about the entirety of things, not just the recent stuff. Okay, that gives me a little bit more context of your point here.
Yeah, specifically I'm talking about the existence of Catslayer and Discords like it. I think they're a bad idea, and I think you should stop.
Okay. Why do you think they're a bad idea?
Because you're damaging vulnerable people.
As a
You're
whole,
making a spectacle. You're making a spectacle of it. This is essentially this is a blood sports content farm, and I don't know if people here are aware of that. Some of them probably are. There are some people on your mod team I'm very fond of that I have great respect for. I believe they're trying to do their best. There are probably some people who are just here for the fun of it. And I remind that if you want to do blood sports, fine, but stop dressing it up in the language of we're here to help, because it doesn't help. This is entertainment at best.
This isn't blood sports.
What's the difference? What's the difference between blood sports and this?
Intensity, verbiage, and the actions taken. So you say I put vulnerable people in problem here. You're talking about the whole. In some cases, I'm sure I have, without question. But my question to you, Mali, is if you don't tackle the people who are causing problems, then what happens then?
You are just not the person to tackle these problems. For example, if you said to
Why?
someone, oh, if people don't tackle crime, how do we stop criminals? Great, I'm not a police officer. I'm not qualified. You're not qualified for this. And you've proven through, like, what is it now, 2 years of build-up that you're not qualified to do this and that you're doing harm. So you specifically should stop.
Doing harm. Okay, so here's my question for you. Now, you're going to think this is pedantic, and it's not my intention to be so. I'm asking because I'm trying to understand. No matter who it is, no matter what they do, they're going to do harm. So is there a ratio here? What are we talking about?
You're going to have to, ratio?
Okay, so anybody in any line of work is going to do good work, and they're going to do bad work. So in situations like this, like, there's plenty of people I have helped, plenty of people that I have gone to bat for, plenty of vulnerable people that I have protected and I have tried to make sure are going to be okay. So my question to you is, the previous bad behavior that I'm working on actively, like, does that 100% just count against anything else I've done? Is that just to be, and I'm not saying this to be pedantic, I'm trying to understand.
You're essentially asking me if the good times negate the bad times.
Not really negate, more of like, I'm having a hard time articulating this, so I apologize. But my question is, like, if most of the stuff I've done has been good and a bit of it's been bad, then why do I need to step away from it completely?
I would. Sorry.
Hold on, Big Cat. Let me talk to Mali about this, please.
Okay. I would disagree. I think the bad far outweighs the good in this instance.
How would you know? Because the bad's being covered the most?
Yes.
Of course it is.
Maybe it's a severity issue you're not understanding here. If I run a pregnant mother over with my car, but I do good deeds the rest of the year, should I still get back behind the wheel of that car? Like,
no, because you severely injured physically, possibly killing or deforming a pregnant woman.
Yes, that is how an analogy works. Do you understand the point of the analogy, not the...
difference. I understand the point, but the severity I don't quite understand.
It's an extreme.
But
we're taking this to its extreme.
Okay.
That's what that is.
Okay.
It's the same concept, but blown up on a larger scale. And again, the reason that you should not be the person to do this is you've proven that you're not the appropriate person to do this. Personally, I don't think discords like this ever work. I think this entire concept is inherently flawed, because if you were doing conflict resolution, it would be in private. It would not be in front of a gallery. Like, let's be honest, Lio, you and I both know that when you actually want to resolve conflict, you get people into private calls that don't see the light of day. I think that's when you're actually resolving conflict.
No, that's actually not true. Flatly, and you wouldn't know.
Well, I mean...
You wouldn't have a clue
If you're saying that you resolve conflict publicly, then I would know.
No, because not every call we have goes out, Mali. That's my point. Do you really think I release every single call we have? Yeah, it's in the server. It's a public server.
Alright, I'll take your word for that. I couldn't possibly know either way.
You don't need to take my word for it. I can show you the file size.
Yeah, he is telling the truth on that. Not all calls go out.
Okay. I mean, I'm pretty sure I've still just made my point clear. It doesn't really change anything on my front.
Well, then my question to you, Mali, is if servers like this never really work, what do you think does?
Personal conversations between people. Actual conflict resolution.
So if
Every conflict that I am aware of that you have resolved between people has not taken place in one of these discords.
It has, but let's go ahead and grant you that just for the sake of argumentation here.
Okay.
No, I'm literally granting you that, Mali. I disagree, but I'm granting you for the sake of argumentation. Not every call is going to be about conflict resolution. Sometimes you just have to grab somebody who's being horrific and deal with them. And if we don't do it like that, how do you recommend doing it? Because you know just as well as everybody else that blocking doesn't always fix it. It certainly doesn't. So what do you recommend?
Again, I could be very wrong. One of these discords might work. I don't think they do. They might. I don't know. I don't live in that hypothetical universe. That's not my point. My point is that you shouldn't be doing this. Because you can't really seem to, what's the right wording here? You have a track record of not being able to differentiate who is one of those terrible people you need to grab by the throat and who is a vulnerable person you shouldn't be doing this to.
So for the sake of clarity here, so I can understand you, you think Rin's on the latter end of that, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So I'm going to pick your brain on that if that's okay. If not, that's fine, but I'm trying to understand here.
If it's relevant, then sure.
Here's where
also,
I struggle.
Sorry, I do want to... Sorry, Big Cat wanted to pick a flaw in the logic from the previous point, so before you go forward, I do want to throw it to them real quick.
Okay, so to best explain everything with, if you're trying to focus strictly on the negatives, are you familiar with manufacturing having a failure and a success rate?
People are not manufacturing tools, so I understand where you're going with. I understand where you're going with this. I don't think it's relevant anymore. It's basically the same argument.
Don't be a dick to Mali. You don't have to be a dick to Mali. They haven't done anything wrong. So please don't. Mali isn't... Hold on, Chris. I need to make this clear. Mali isn't some deranged lunatic or some unhinged scumbag that's coming in here to argue just because they're mad for no reason. Mali came in here, and I'm hoping, and well, knowing Mali, it probably is in 100% good faith. We don't need to be so directly answer the question. It's not necessary. That level of aggression isn't needed here.
I have a really quick question before we move on. Did you watch, Mali? Did you watch the Satsu call?
You're gonna have to be more specific because I've seen like
The
I
latest
think
Satsu call, the
two.
one that happened maybe in the last month.
So is that if you're focusing on the negatives, generally when it comes to any kind of negative, so it's like what's usually the kind of the news that usually gets talked about? It's usually the negatives. You don't typically hear about the positives. Just because it's the bad calls that get going out the most doesn't mean that a lot of good is being done.
Yeah, we kind of we already kind of covered that argument. That's the good versus the bad argument again, just with the industrial coat of paint. I guess if you want to talk more, I guess, hard numbers or that kind of thing, you could look at police conduct. I'm sure there's lots of police officers that do wonderful work all the time, but then they beat someone who didn't deserve to be beat, and now they're fired, and they should be. And I think that's applicable here. You can do a lot of good work, but once you've proven that you're not the appropriate person to be in a position of power, you should no longer be in that position of power.
All right.
There's a point I wanted to expand on because it was bugging me. Because, again, I'll be voicing my opinions on the Ven call. As I said to you in private, Lio, I didn't like how things were conducted, but I didn't have the words at the time. Because when I was in therapy, when I was in care, I did what you've done in this call and explaining it, saying I could have done this, I could have done that, but I don't have to, I don't want to. These are known as where is it? As veiled threats or implied threats. This involves making statements that indirectly suggest potential negative consequences without explicitly stating that as a clear threat. This is when a person says, quote, I could this, or I don't want to, but I could, in order to create a sense of fear or unease in the other person. They're hinting at the ability and or willingness to do something harmful while maintaining the plausible deniability, since they haven't made a direct threat. Veiled threats are a form of emotional manipulation and abuse, and the goal could be to control the other person through fear and intimidation by creating a whole scenario of what they could do without clearly crossing the line into threats. This could make a victim feel scared of what could happen if they mess with you anymore. So those are, even though you didn't directly say them, they are still threats.
Wouldn't threat come down to intent, though?
That would be perceived by people. So while you might not have intended it, the people can still perceive it as them.
Okay, so, and just to pick your brain on this, how exactly should I have gone about voicing to Rin the fact that I wouldn't do something like that then? What type of comfort could I even give someone like that?
I would just say not to mention it, because it's the idea of, like, there's many things I could do what I would never even dream of doing. It's just like, why would I need to say it if the thought didn't even cross my mind? Because Vin has an incredibly terrifying living position. And if... I'm trying to think of how it could be phrased. I'm going to use a quite dramatic example. It's like, let's just say me and Peaches were on good terms. It's obvious that we're not. But it's like, oh, Liar, I could forward all of this to Peaches. I could do this if I really wanted to. But I'm not going to, because, you know, I'm not like that. But if I wanted to, I could do that. That kind of idea. It elicits the fear of me getting in contact with someone who has hurt you in your life, and implying if I mess with Crystal, that could happen.
I wouldn't have even read that as a threat, Crystal, because we've had conversations similar to that.
Yeah.
So I don't read that as a threat.
But I'm just...
Go ahead, Mali.
Yeah.
Yeah, you asked how would you navigate saying that to someone who's vulnerable. There's kind of two quick and easy ways. A, don't bring it up. Like, if they haven't brought up the idea that you could do this to them, you should not bring it up to them, because then you're putting it on the table as a possibility that might not have even crossed their mind, and it's, I hate to use the word, suspicious to even bring it up if no one else had, because why is that on your brain? And then if they bring it up because it's something they're paranoid about, you simply say, I would never do that. You don't say, I could do this terrible thing, but I won't. So, for future reference,
okay,
that's your answer.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I know sometimes it's a bit getting into the weeds, but sometimes I do just need to be walked through these things.
All right. Well, I should probably wrap up because I think I've made my point as succinctly as I can. And if we're talking about walking you to the point, I will put as fine a point on this as possible. You should delete this Discord. You should stop doing this. And if you think that you can be helpful maybe later, once you sort your shit out, fine. But you haven't had any time away to change anything. And the problems are continuing.
Okay.
So that's my value in that. You should stop.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and respond to that if that's okay.
Yeah, and then I wanna say one final thing to kind of your mod team, and then I'll be done.
Okay. I am going to take what you say under serious counsel here, because I'm not even going to pretend like some of the stuff doesn't even just wear on me as a person. For example, for the past 3 days, I've been in and out of multiple calls. I currently have people blaming me for Susie leaving, of all things in the world. And it does get exhausting after a while. So as far as deleting the Discord, no, because it's just a community Discord. If I stop doing anything like that here, we can just talk about nerd stuff. That's fine. As far as Rin goes, what I really don't understand, I mean genuinely don't, is I know that some people are on the spectrum. I actually did a straw poll about it today. 80% of people in the server are on the spectrum. So I can understand trying to make proper accommodations for that, but things Rin did in public, I don't understand why that can't be addressed in public. I genuinely don't.
Alright, I can kind of answer that. You brought them into your home turf under false pretenses and jumped to them with a conversation they weren't prepared for. It was inappropriate.
Okay, I don't think I did it under false pretenses. I think I didn't communicate fully. I didn't have any intention of deception there, but I can understand where you'd get that from or why you'd believe that, especially in the past. So I will take that on the chin and I'll accept that.
I can actually clarify that. I saw the conversation, I can't remember who it was with, but you were discussing with the person about what the call would be, that it would just be Rin and I think Yoon talking. If Rin is unaware of how gallery calls are conducted, if they're unaware that there are other people looking at the calls and like mods that can sit in and interject at different points, that is presenting the call under false pretenses.
Rin did know. Rin was in Senate in 2022. Rin had taken place in gallery calls and Rin had been participating in them.
But did Rin know that this would be a gallery call and that gallery calls continued in LAIR?
I'm pretty sure they did. The main person I communicated with, there was slightly some with Frisk, and this may be one of the reasons why things were a bit confusing. But with Frisk and with Neurofunk, who was their +1 in the call.
Alright, you good with that, B? Because I kind of... Alright, I have, I guess, one last thing I can bring up and then I'll be done. Other than what I want to say to the mods. Alright, so you mentioned earlier in this call, like, you said it yourself, that you've caused pain to others through your actions. So can you elaborate on what the harmful impacts resulted from your past conduct were? Like, you admit that you've hurt people, but you haven't actually articulated how. And then why should the community trust you to lead, you know, responsibly on sensitive conflict resolution at that point?
Okay. Do we talk about the community as a whole or just the individuals I've talked to in calls?
I
or
do both.
Or all.
Do both.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Now, I addressed some of this in the video. I can't remember everything I talked about because it was 4 hours long. So the rundown I have here is there are people who have been neurotypical. The community that I think Mali's referring to specifically is commentary. Okay, so there have been neurodivergent people that I have treated horrifically, improperly, and unproductively, such as Rosa, such as Jax, such as... shoot, I can't remember every single name. But I do know that sometimes trying to get through to them frustrates me, and that tends to pick things up a little bit more. Okay, so you're talking about my community specifically? I thought you were talking about the Browder community. That's why I'm a little confused. Okay.
Okay, my bad.
It's okay. Okay. That actually makes it a little easier, so I appreciate that. To my community specifically, I feel that part of them may feel a bit deceived that I'm not what I am, or that I wasn't what I seem to be. That was never my intent to deceive them into thinking that. There were people who used to take a lot of comfort from what I did, who no longer do now, and I'm trying to regain that trust, not specifically to gain any sort of like notoriety, but just because I do feel that I have that responsibility. I have hurt them in the sense that I have used awful language and I have done awful tactics in order to get resolutions from people that I really didn't even need to. A good example would be Jax, and for the record, he and I have come to a conversation about it. He just doesn't want to be mentioned going forward, so I'd appreciate if you keep that under your own hat. There have been people who have cared about what I do that I pushed aside. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little hung up here. I'm trying to gather my thoughts, so please just be patient. It's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who used to trust me, and now they don't because I've proven in some cases that it was misplaced or that I was too hot-headed for things. That's why I was in therapy and I'm trying to get back in. It's also why I'm on medication. I want people to be comfortable properly, people who have been through horrible things, and that's why this server isn't supposed to operate like Senate, and its rules are stricter in those type of ways, and we try to actually make things resolved if we can. The most harm I've done, I think, is to people who are on the spectrum, who, even though that may not be the case now, and I don't just mean to trust, but like who looked at me as a neurotypical individual who treated them properly, and to see that in some cases I didn't. And that does bother me. I lose sleep over that because I don't want to harm innocent people. I never did. But I did anyway. I've harmed friendships I've made. I've harmed people that didn't deserve it. And I'm not just being vague. I know that I've done damage to you and your friends, Mali. I've also done damage to people that were close to me, like Monstrous here, who I completely shut off because of Peaches and other people. Primarily Peaches. I want to help people, and I can give my reason for that if that's even relative in your mindset, but I want people to be comfortable. I want people to know that they're going to be safe here. I don't want them to think they're going to be a target like they were in Senate, or like they're just one screw up away from being pulled in and shouted at. That's why when we do gallery calls, we don't even do it in the way we used to. I am trying my best to alter this behavior. It's just really rough right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're cognizant of the damage that you've done, and you say that you want to help people. That's wonderful. I think most people want to help other people. I think that you should very deeply consider why you're still running these discords when they cause harm to people, when you want to help people.
Because I think it's a matter of how I do it, as opposed to just the fact that I'm the one doing it.
You're gonna have to expand on how those things are different.
Okay. Give me a moment. I'm trying to think of the right comparison here.
All right, maybe a case study will help. All right, so one of the worst instances of this kind of mess up would be Jibs. Do you want to maybe elaborate on that?
Can we not talk about Jibs?
Jibs isn't here,
I'm
though.
sorry.
I feel that would be extremely unfair. Hold on. I think it would be extremely unfair to Jibs, because Jibs is on my staff. I think it would be unfair to talk about Jibs' situation when they're capable and on my staff, and they're not here in the call.
Thank you.
And for the record, I'm not.
Okay.
I am. Yeah. I am not. I am. Here's what I'm not doing. Like, period. There are a couple of things that I'm still somewhat tied to that I'll be working on. But as far as ongoing predator hunting, I haven't done that in a year. I'm not dealing directly with victims like that, especially if they're minors at all. Period. I'm not going to sit here and make excuses for how I treated Jibs. It was awful, and I'm not going to back away from that. I've had a few talks with Jibs about that. But one criticism that was given to me, that even though I think Stardust can be a bit of a pain in the butt, or was it Stardust? Monsters, was it Stardust or Barbie that said I got too close?
I want to say that was Barbie.
Okay, Barbie. Barbie's valid and perfect. That I've had a tendency of sometimes getting too emotionally close to some of the predation victims, and I did not have the tools at all. I spoke to them horribly, or I said the wrong things to them, or I lost my temper on them. I didn't have the tools for it. I didn't have the resources. I wanted to help, but I was not suited or qualified for that at all. So that you won't see here. I am avoiding that as much as possible. The only things I'm in somewhat relation to that is Indo's situation, which is complicated in and of itself. There's a few reasons why that hasn't been handled yet, one of which is the sheer amount of data behind it, and the second I'm not really at liberty to say. And there were some people in SCC that had wronged kids that I took to task, but it wasn't inherently predator hunting. So that I'm not doing. So if you're concerned about that, that's completely off the table.
I mean, I'm glad that's off the table. I specifically didn't mention predator hunting because I already knew you weren't doing it anymore. So yeah,
You
it
said
doesn't
Jibs.
particularly. Jibs is an example of
That
a
was-
call that was inappropriate with someone. That doesn't specifically need to be about
Oh!
predator hunting.
Well, I'm sorry, I misread that. I do apologize. So are you
Okay.
asking me what I did wrong there and how I'm not doing it again, or can you re-clarify
I mean,
since
you're-
I've gone off into the weeds?
Again, you're cognizant of what you did wrong in that call. Like
Oh, absolutely, without question.
And I think pretty much everyone kind of already knows as well. So I don't really need a play-by-play. It's more a question of, like, you can see that you did this thing wrong in this call, and then you kind of did it again with Rin, and then you've done it previously, and you're probably, like, 100% cards on the table. I can see this happening again and again and again, because nothing's changed here. Like, the only thing that's different is you had your own personal situation aired out to the public. Like, you didn't step away from the internet for a time and go to therapy or something. You've been here the whole time, and the problems have persisted. So don't you think you should at least step away?
No. And for
No.
2 reasons. Number one, like, you say the problems have persisted, but the primary thing I got concerning Rosa was about my ableism and my language. Only in the past, 3 days, Monstrous, has anybody brought up anything else concerning that call? So I'm kind of lost in the weeds on that one.
Right.
Again, sorry, go ahead, Monstrous.
Oh no, I was agreeing, but Mali, I understand what you're trying to say. I understand what you're getting at. I think what Lio is trying to say, because we are going off the beaten path, is that Lio and I have had a conversation how he wants to tie up the loose ends that he's already started, which I think is perfectly fair to want to do, because he feels that he owes it to the people, like Endo, for example, to tie up those loose ends, because otherwise Endo may not have anybody to go to. And Endo, specifically in this situation, is already being treated like a leper. And so while I understand your concern and I understand where you're coming from, and I don't necessarily disagree with you, Lio wants to finish up his loose ends, and that is it. And then there's nothing else after this. What those loose ends are in totality, I don't know.
Right. Tying up loose end implies that once those ends are tied up, this ends. So
Correct.
Is there an end point?
There, whatever those loose ends are.
When you say endpoint, do you mean to just helping people, or do you mean to how we run a gallery call? I just want to make sure I know
Well,
what
I
we're
mean,
discussing here.
Again, loose ends implies there's an end point. So what is the end point?
Well,
what ends?
Okay. The endpoint is going to be dependent on a few factors here, but what I can tell you is, while I may not take a step away from the internet, I am going to take a break from anything heavy, because frankly, if I don't, Monsters is going to beat the living stuffing out of me, because I've had a tendency for years of not taking breaks. There's a lot just going on right now. Using the internet as a place for fun, or to talk about what I want in terms of what I enjoy, or maybe even like things I'll criticize that aren't about people inherently, I don't think is an issue. The problem is constantly being in these situations and constantly being the mediator and constantly being put around terrible things or vulnerable people. I think that's got to peter to a stop for the most part. I do need a break, and I do need some time to, deal with things one way or another, and that's what we're working towards right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I guess I will throw this out into the aether as well. Why is it appropriate for you to monetize this?
Monetize what?
Your beefs, your dramas on your YouTube channel. Like your most recent
ones have I done?
The most recent one was Crimson Mayhem, I believe. Were they a predator?
No, Crimson Mayhem wasn't a predator at all.
What was their crime?
Crimson Mayhem lied about people I know and ghosted us on reporting a predator that they had promised they would do.
And so that's a profit thing then.
No. Did you listen to the call?
I'm asking if it's appropriate for you to monetize that.
You monetize
You can say
things-
yes. You can say
No.
yes, like 100%.
Hold on.
This is not a trap. You can say yes.
It certainly sounds like one. All of my videos by nature are set up for monetization.
And I'm asking if you think that's appropriate with the nature of some of your videos. You can say yes.
Okay, can you be specific in which videos nature we're talking about?
I mean, obviously there's the Predator ones, but any of the ones that are just like interpersonal beefs or behind the scenes beefs, basically anything to do with like the Cloud Palace things, like those kind of things where there's not, I guess, a very public concern. It's more just interpersonal problems that are becoming content.
Hold on. No, that is a larger problem because those people were being quiet about a confidant of a child predator being around children.
Again, my question is still, is it appropriate to monetize this?
Yes, because that's how the algorithm picks it up, so people are aware of it.
Okay. I dead ass, I just wanted your take on that. Like, you didn't, it's not a defense thing, I just need to know where your moral is on that.
All right, well, I'll tell you where the rest of my moral is on that, if that's okay. Anytime I make money on YouTube, I give it to other people. My Patreon's at a net deficit every month as well.
Okay.
And if you want to know a little bit more of the inside game, the money I've made on videos recently, half of it went to Crystal, and the other half's going to Dorito when we figure out how to get money to you, Dorito, doggone it.
Again, I was just asking for your value on that, because I didn't know where you stood on it, and it's just something I need to be aware of going forward. And I feel like other people probably should consider that as well. Okay, let me see. Unless Stream or someone has something else they want to throw a reminder for me, I'm pretty much done. I will just say, I guess to your mod team, again, because I think this Discord is bad and I think it should stop. And to your mod team, I think there's sort of 3 stages of moderators in here. There will be people who are actually just here for blood sports. Whether they admit that or not is up to them. Godspeed, enjoy your weird, messy drama. Stop pretending it's not messy drama. There's some people here who think that they are fixing things from the inside, that you're helping in some way. It's like, oh, it would be worse if I wasn't here to temper it. I'd like to say to those people, I think you're wrong. I think you're lending legitimacy to a Discord that shouldn't exist, and I think trying this, oh, we're better now, we won't be mean to people anymore, gives others a false sense of security to come into calls where they are going to get hurt. So I think people who are trying to fix from the inside should stop and leave. And then there's some people who genuinely just either believe in you, LAIR, or the Discord. I would encourage you to reconsider that notion and really think about it, sit down with yourself for a little bit. Yeah. As far as I know, that's where I end.
Okay, so I will ask a question. Even though this has been talked about and it's something I'm talking about, and I've already made you aware of this. What will stop a circumstance of a video on me and Dorito like that ever happening again? Because that is the finest case for me of there was every bit of evidence was not true. Like the claims that we were comparing Peaches to Veer, Vida, and Artie. No screenshot showed that. It was a very extreme circumstance, absolutely, but what is stopping that from getting to that point again where you would make a video on innocent people?
Well, number one, not letting anybody get so close that they can dictate all my actions without a question or without involving other people. Secondly, there's having other people looking at my things that are not involved in these situations that are capable of looking at it from an unbiased, as best as possible standpoint. If I had people who weren't having Peaches whisper in their ear look at that video, it probably wouldn't have gone anywhere it needed to. Because the people who did had Peaches in their ear, and as well as me having that in their ear, Lumi was all over that script as well and constantly relaying things to Peaches. That entire script was an absolute mess, and so was that video.
Yeah, it's just... It was a very extreme circumstance, but it's just a precedent that's set, you know? It's like, when I made that truth and dare claim, which came out to be true, like the second I was like, no, there isn't enough proof. The second someone talked to me about it, I took it down and I made an amendment. I apologized for it. But when it came to you saw me generally breaking down in a friend of yours server, where I was like, this isn't true, and I was grabbing all the links, I was grabbing everything, and the video wasn't taken down. It was only when everything escalated with Peaches and everything like that we started talking. Like, you saw me directly showing you evidence to the contrary, saying this is not true, this did not happen, why are you saying this? This is generally hurting me. But it was still there for a long period of time.
And I told you why.
Yeah, but you get what I'm getting at, like, because
I do.
multiple people
I do get what you're
in the
getting at.
Senate was like completely. A good example right now is comparing the video on me to the video that Doodles recently released, where people take your word as absolute fact. No one should do that. Everyone should be looked into. Like, if Mali made a video claiming anything, or like Streamline or anyone else in this call made a video saying X, Y, and Z, people should have a realm of skepticism, but that doesn't seem to be held in this server, to the point where I was getting frustrated with people here instantly, like doing the game of telephone, being like, oh yeah, Lacquer forced him to do this, Lacquer did this, Lacquer did that, when none of that was true. And the same thing happened on the video of me. People saying, why would Crystal do this? Why would Crystal betray? Crystal's so evil, so vindictive, and just dragging Dorito into it. It seems, while you are aiming to change, it seems that the Senate mentality is still there within the Peanuts, per se.
Alright, and how would you address that?
Well, you saw how I addressed that, but my worry is anyone else going to do that when I leave? Because I can't be here forever. Because
I know.
It's like how, because there was a few mods in the chat who didn't fact check. It was a whole discussion, like, after Doodle's video came out, at least like an hour and a half of people, not an hour, sorry, like 45 minutes of people just constantly poisoning the well, constantly getting worse, to the point they were saying Lacquer is an emotional manipulator. And I was like, what the living hell? And how, I don't know who, but I swear there was someone within the moderator team in agreement. For example, Asuka was, give me 1 second, Streamline. Asuka was confused on what was going on, and they thought that Lacquer was a bad person. That's no dig at Asuka here, but it just shows that people, if they're in the mod team, they need to hold that sense of middle ground. They need to attempt to look at it or watch the video. Well, Asuka was at work. If we're going to, as a mod team, make comments on a situation, then we need to watch the video. We need to see what's going on, like, as soon as possible, before we reinforce the facts what are being said within the server.
I agree. And that's something we'll have to address within mod staff. There's a few things we need to address within mod staff, honestly.
Because the example was used, I'm jumping again. Mali or Stream, if you want to jump in, just tell me to shut up. But
no,
basically is, oh god, oh no, I've lost my point. Oh no, where's my point gone? Oh,
alright, well, you find that, I will jump in.
Go.
Yeah, just gather the brain, I got you, fam. Okay, again, this kind of leads into my overarching point. That video, would you not think that's inappropriate? It was a weaponized video against someone. Like, don't you think using your platform as a weapon is wrong?
No, because I don't think a weapon inherently is wrong. It's who it's aimed at and why. I think using it against Crystal was wrong.
Okay, I would argue using your platform as a weapon in any capacity is wrong. Because you can get it wrong, and you did get it wrong.
So do you believe that any video calling out any video calling out bad behavior is wrong then?
No, I don't. But that's not the question here. The question is weaponization. If you're using your channel to weaponize it against people you don't like, specifically because of things they did either to you or to people you know, I think that's wrong. And I think it causes situations like Crystal's, where someone gets caught in the crossfire wrongly. Pointing out bad behavior doesn't inherently mean weaponization. Oh, sorry, Crystal, go on.
I see.
Just say no, forget it. An example was used before was of a good call was the Sasu call, where me
No. Monsters. I'm gonna tell you right now, monsters are gonna fight you tooth and nail on that sucker.
I will also.
Yeah, but like that was possibly going to be raised as an idea of a call that went that good. It was passive. It was that even though again I'm not saying it's good. Let me finish. I'm just saying. Okay, so what I'm saying is that at the beginning it was perceived as a good call, and then upon reflection, it was seen as a bad call. But then that's because the call was too passive and the mods weren't informed. So it seems like it's really hard to get a middle ground with so many differing opinions of how we approach situations. Like, there's no. I don't.
Well, I think, hold on. I think part of the problem with the Sasu call was the fact that I didn't fully inform everybody, because I do have a bad habit, and I've noticed this, and I'm trying to fix it. Where I assume the people around me probably have the same amount of knowledge about the situations I'm dealing with that I do, and that's obviously incorrect, and sooner or later I'm actually going to freaking learn this, and I am sorry it's taking so long. So I think that was part of the problem with the Sasu call. There were a few others as well, but I want to, if it's okay, just jump back to Mali's point here, because I want to fully understand. And this is not to take a shot. This isn't ain't that. So if I understand, Mali, your issue isn't inherently calling out bad actors in the platform. It's the fact that they're concerning personal beefs. Is that correct, or am I missing it?
I mean, I think you can talk about personal beefs. Like, there's definitely a grey crossover area there. My problem is using your platform as a weapon against others.
I guess this is the part where I just don't quite understand, because I think that any platform calling out bad behavior is inherently a weapon, whether the weapon's used for good or used for evil. I suppose as goofy and cartoonish that sounds, I think is the point. Because it sounded like, and again, I could be incorrect, that you were more irritated with that it was used as a weapon because of personal beef, as you brought up with the Crimson Mayhem thing. So that's I'm just a little confused on that. I'm genuinely not trying to be thick. It's been very rough.
That's alright. It might just be the terminology is what's throwing you on that. Yeah, let me rephrase it. So, yeah, I think using your platform for personal beef, but dressing it up as a morality crusade is a problem.
Okay, and I'm asking this legitimately. What calls do you think I've done that with?
Calls specifically?
Well, video, obviously we have Crystal, because
yeah,
that.
I mean, so for real, I off the top of my head, I'm not gonna have names for you. Off the top of my head, I'm not gonna have the names.
That's fair. That's 100% fair. We talk about dressing it up, but I don't think I am. I can have a legit moral issue with somebody while they've still caused me problems, and I've still had beef with them. I don't understand why that's such a polarizing thing.
I could step in with something here. LAIR, are you aware of the phrase absolute power corrupts absolutely?
Yes.
Okay, so do you think people have a legitimate concern in the idea that if somebody who has a habit of calling out terrible people, if they get to the point where they think that their audience will believe them on anybody they call out, that they might just start calling out people that they have specifically personal beef with, but otherwise who have not necessarily done anything morally objectionable?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's probably some of the issue here then, is that people may be worried, like, you're showcasing tiny little signs that you're having difficulty differentiating between people who have done objective moral wrongs and people who have just wronged you or other people within the community. And so people are worried that that is going to build to such an extent that you are just going after people that wrong you because you know that you can get away with it.
Okay,
I may also interject if that's because that sounds like a very malicious thing, and I don't think that's Ponder's intent with that, nor do I think that's accurate to what's happening here. I agree with Ponder. I think that is definitely a thing that is happening, and we've kind of already seen that happening with you and your view on some people becoming monstrous when their crimes are very personal. So yeah, I don't think it's a malicious thing. I think it's what's the right word? Not ignorant, not stupid.
Well, you can use either or. It's fine. I'm not going to be offended if you say that.
No, it's just not the right. It's not the correct term is the problem. Not a
No,
not a
I
name
get it.
drop.
Okay, real quick. I'm picking up what Ponder's saying, and I understand it. I don't think Ponder's like putting malice towards me and saying that. Ponder's was actually communicated that very well. I understood exactly what they were saying.
Okay. I will add to that as well. You've said a couple times throughout this call and previously that you're working on things, you're figuring things out. And that's great. Personal growth, we love that. But the problem is you're kind of working those things and figuring them out through the process of hurting other people. Like your personal growth comes at the cost of other people being hurt so that you can learn. Like, can you see that?
Yeah, but my question is like I'm a type of person that I learn by doing. So how do I
Then you
learn without
shouldn't.
doing?
Again, I loop back to my if the only way you can learn not to damage people in these calls is to damage people in calls, you should just not learn and you should go and do something else.
Well, I'm not referring to damaging people. I mean, like, how do I learn to navigate these things without doing them? Like, in general, just navigating
what things?
these types of conversations or navigating any form of conflict resolution. Because I'm not out here intentionally trying to damage vulnerable people. And even with the Ren thing, I have definite disagreements on that, which again wraps back to my initial question concerning that. But I guess that's not between you and I. That's between me and everybody and their mom. But like, I'm not trying to find my way through the weeds by hurting other people. That's not my intent here.
It's not your intent, but in practice, that's what's happening. Like, if I want to hammer nail head, your personal growth is not worth other people's pain. That is the brass tacks of it. I don't think you're aware. I know you're not actively going, oh, I'm going to hurt this person so I can learn not how to hurt this person. It's not a conscious thing. It's just the only way that you seem to ever reflect on something is either someone gets really severely hurt or the public gets on your ass.
Do you really think that's true?
I do, yes.
No, of course I disagree. Here's the thing, Mali. Even when we were talking, you barely knew anything about me. We never hung out, we never spent time, we never talked to each other. People here have. I, of course, learned things without having to hurt other people or without the public getting on to me. Because overall, like, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, Rosa call, fair game. Say whatever you need to. The reason I gave apologies isn't because the public got on my butt. I couldn't care less for the majority of the part whether or not the public likes me. I have a life off the internet. It doesn't get to me as much as people want to think it does. What gets to me is hurting people that are close to me or them being hurt in ways I can't help them. That gets to me. Whether or not people get on my butt on the internet, I could not, for the most part, care less unless they're right, in which case I acknowledge it. The idea that seems to be put forward is like the only reason I dealt with any of this because, it blew up. No. Because I was working on correcting that behavior before it blew up.
I mean, if that's your value on it, it's not like I can refute the way you feel on that. So yeah, I got nothing more to add to that.
It's not so much about feeling, it's about what's happened. I'm getting what you're saying.
If I may, so for the Rosa thing, I do think you should have said something out publicly a bit sooner than you wound up doing that, and not much more attached to the end of the conundrum video within it. But I think, yeah. So, yeah.
Technically, I did, but that video is long since gone because it was on the original upload of that call where I addressed it in an entire paragraph there. If you're referring to a more public way, yeah, you're probably right on that. But, I could get into the weeds on that, but it's irrelevant. It's stuff I should have done regardless of what was going on in my life. Because while I'm not going to sit here and deny that Peaches did a lot of damage to me and certainly manipulated me and pushed me, the choices were still my own.
May, have you got more stuff?
I've actually got a list.
Oh, okay.
So, sorry,
Please. I will be back in 1 second.
Yeah. Blah, 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 blah. So, one, I actually didn't know that the people coming into the server couldn't see the peanut gallery chat. I think that's a good thing because that was definitely on my list because I specifically worried about people who are able to see the chat reacting to the chat. But my list, I guess, do you want me to just list out the whole thing or just like bit by bit and we go over it?
If you list out the whole thing, my brain's going to scramble, so please point by point. Otherwise, I will get lost and I will get confused, and you'll have to put Grandpa back to bed.
Okay, so first things first, even though they can't see people chatting, they are aware of how large the gallery call is, correct?
Yes.
Okay. In that sense, I don't think the calls are necessarily as productive as you might think that they are, because basic psychology dictates that when people are confronted with a viewing audience of that size, they are more concerned of defaulting to self-preservation and maintaining their reputation, and so they are more likely to lie. Which I know that you don't like the prospect of people lying. That's actually another thing to bring up is that like we are aware that people are afraid of you, and I'm sure you're aware of like good cop bad cop, and the Sasu call is a relative example of this because Sasu got really aggressive whenever you got into the call, but then when I was present in the call, Sasu was able to calm down. That would be an example of good cop bad cop, and Sasu opened up a lot more to me when Crystal and I were on the call than when you were the one talking. And that is like the biggest crux is that when you are acting alone, you are bad cop, and people are less likely to open up to bad cop. They are less likely to be truthful in situations where they feel pressured or scared or what do you call it? Trapped in a corner. They are more likely to lie. So, despite the fact that you hate lying, your approach inherently brings about lies. People are more likely to be truthful, even if they've actually done something wrong, if they trust the person they're talking to. And that is something that needs to be established pretty early on.
I guess this is part of where, like, my background comes into play here. Because all I ever dealt with was bad cop, and you had to be honest with him. So I guess that's just part of, like, my lifehood bias coming into play, for lack of a better word. But what you're saying does make sense. I understand it.
Yeah, I understand that as well. It's just that your perspective comes from a perspective of like the bad cop is somebody who directly had power over you and could actively punish you in the moment. It's totally different over a call where like you can't actually in some cases do anything against the person aside from like in some cases dox them.
Fair point.
So let's see. Okay. So another issue with the gallery calls. The Sasu call showcased that there's the potential for unstable as well as malicious individuals to throw out extremely volatile personal information or threats of harm that could be triggering for those listening. And the staff can like this stuff cannot be predicted by staff ahead of time. It can only be acted upon after the fact, and that's not really fair to put on the peanuts. They're like most of the time they're just going in for like haha funny call, someone's being called out, and then all of a sudden someone throws out ideation and it's like, oh, now this got really serious. Some people are going to be extremely triggered by that, and there's no way to predict it before it happens.
Yeah, that's a valid point to make. And that's what we were talking about a little bit after the Sasu call. That is a 100% valid point. I just didn't know how to navigate around something like that. I'm still trying to figure out some things, but that's a darn good point. And
Yeah,
of course,
so-
Asuka did make that earlier, but
Yeah. In that regard, especially with regards to potentially volatile or unstable people, gallery calls like they cannot happen the way that they happen because you can't really predict if someone's going to do that, even if they're not unstable in that sense, even if they're just malicious and they want to throw out something specifically really disturbing or disgusting or awful. Some people will do that. Oh, there was the call in the overstim corner. Confrontational calls shouldn't be happening in the overstim corner because that chat is public, and people can like the side chat being an open channel that anyone can view poses problems down the line where people can make assumptions as to what went on during the calls that they weren't present for looking at the chat, and that could completely miscommunicate what went on.
I'm sorry. Just so I make sure my ducks are in a row, what call happened there?
Zara.
Oh, yeah, that was completely impromptu. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, like I understand it wasn't really something that we were expecting, but that probably shouldn't happen. Like they're going to be confrontational. Yeah, if there are confrontational calls, it needs to be like all in a hidden channel with like a chat that cannot be accessed by just like the peons or the peanuts or whatever the hell they're called.
Or
That's a fair point.
Or even able to be viewed from the outside, because the thing with the overstim corners, you can still see the names of who's in there, you know? And you'd think it would be a normal thing, but if someone... But yeah.
Let's see. There needs to be a private and accessible chat for any and all confrontational calls, period. Might also be worth recording those calls and providing the recordings to everyone involved, not just kept for Lio's archives. So, like, the person who's being confronted, the call should also be given to them.
Okay, that's reasonable.
Let's see. To make up for this, the Cat's Lair can organize friendly or joking satirical debates. And this was actually something, because you brought up that you learned through doing. So if you were really concerned about confronting people in certain ways, it could be a role play thing. You could do satirical role play joke debates where like someone plays the role of an unreasonable party and you have to navigate around them. Inherently it would have to be someone who like knows about psychology and like manipulation tactics and whatnot. But if you see them in play in a satirical sense, it may teach you like how to recognize them in reality.
It's a good idea. I like that.
Yeah, and then those can later be used as content. People could debate, as long as it's specified that like it's all a joke, like the people are not serious, they're role playing. People could debate best waifus, they could debate relevant community drama, they could debate best and worst Thundercats episodes. Hell, you can even have people debate ethical Exactly. You could have people debate the ethical nature of the original call format.
Okay.
Let's see, what else? Content made in relation to mentally ill individuals needs to be reassessed. For as much as people like Smash Bandicoot are entertaining in the moment, it cannot be argued that the guy has some serious issues. It becomes a question of, is it fine to laugh at this clearly mentally unwell individual if the way that their mental health issues manifest results in extreme inconveniences or harm for others? While it may be cathartic for the victims in the short term, can it really be argued to be productive? It should also be worth noting that community favor has in the past soured to content that they were originally okay with, the Akai Dahlia rants being a great example of that. If community perception of that type of milking content out of mentally ill persons sours, then is that going to then come back to reflect badly on the victims in the long run?
It's a valid point. I never even sat and thought about the fact that Smash Bandicoot is severely unwell. I just thought, well, here's a doofus being a doofus, and he says some really goofy things, which frankly are, mental health aside, his stuff is extremely quotable, and I do unironically love it. Like, Dong Fidel is perfect.
Ephron, was Smash proven to be faking a large chunk of what he did?
I believe Lio addressed that in part 2. He talked about that at the end and showed that Smash was at the very least exaggerating what he was doing for the microphone in order to intentionally make himself look more unstable.
So he's like trolling.
In some cases, yes. It's kind of hard to tell. Sure.
Don't we think that it's a problem that you're not sure, like, if this person is mentally ill or they're trolling? Yeah, isn't that a big fucking red flag? Because again, what if you get it wrong?
There is also another thing I'd like to add. Smash Bandicoot, what a wonderful person. Basically, their level of accession led to, like, again, I looking at the calls, they are funny, but there was a serious thing that had this. An example is my server. My server is really far disconnected from the Senate. Like, most people don't even know I have a server, because a very PG-13 space has a lot of the glitch shell victims in it, have very, a lot of miners in it, and due to Smash's accession with Peaches and they came into my server with an alternate account and spammed porn and exposed minors to pornography. And that was devastating for me, because I try my absolute best to prevent minors from being exposed into this, and I wasn't even a mod in the Senate. He just knew I talked to Peaches, I talked to you, and because of that, he decided to try to attack my server, my space.
Yeah, and that's part of the thing I struggle with, because sometimes I make myself a target so they stop dicking with other vulnerable people, and somehow that backfires sometimes. Smash is a really good example of that, so you're not wrong on that.
Actually, I can bring up a comparison. You're aware that Susie had to deal with oh fuck, I forget his name. The guy who was going into her streams, especially on YouTube, for such an extended period of time and like
Sherman.
doxing her, right?
Sherman.
Yes. Are you aware that you're aware that Sherman would also go into anybody who was connected to Susie, right? Like Sherman came
Yes,
into my streams multiple times.
It made Susie scared she was going to lose friends over his actions.
Exactly. So we're already aware that certain unstable people or malicious people have a precedent where they do try to isolate an individual. Sometimes making yourself a target does not exclusively mean that all of their ire is going to be directed to you. If they want to isolate you, they're still going to go after your friends. It doesn't matter if you're trying to bring their attention back to you. If they want to isolate you, they're going to try to do it.
Well, let me go ahead and be transparent here. One of the reasons why I kept doing it is because he'd mess with Cartoonshi and he'd wind up in my DMs freaking out, and I did what I could to try to help him. Getting Smash to come after me instead of harassing Cartoonshi, I thought was saving him a lot of pain, because he was freaking out in my DMs telling me how about he can't handle it and he wants to die, and I just did what I could.
And I understand that, but there is a precedent where like they aren't not just going to always go after you.
No, you're right. I know you're right. I'm sorry.
Yes, going
I
after
also-
your friends is a part of the isolation process. Sorry.
No, it's just I feel like this point kind of slipped through the cracks, and I feel like it's a very important point. The whole not knowing if someone is mentally ill or not before getting them into a call, going off. That was a big point of the Rosa call, that so many people reacted like, hold on, wait, this person isn't mentally sound. If I had known that, I wouldn't have done this. And that's for someone that, like, you already knew was not mentally sound. What about people you don't even have any idea?
Sometimes that's hard to assess.
Yeah,
So,
that's the point.
I guess. Well, yeah, but that's the. Hold on, give me a second to I'm going to start jumbling my thoughts here. I'm getting a little bounced. Give me a moment.
No worries.
So, in what we're discussing, are we discussing the hypothetical of if these calls were to continue, or are we talking about like just looking back at the past behavior?
We are talking about if the calls were to continue.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's what got me a little confused here. Because there's no direct way to know inherently unless it's super ultra obvious. I think that's a fair point. So here's where I'm trying to figure out what could be done then, because you can't just let people like this, even if they're unwell, just run amok. So, and I'm not saying, well, if you don't have an answer, clearly we have to keep doing this. I'm just asking, like, for the group here, like, is there a better way?
You mean just in general of how to handle these things?
How do we deal with somebody like that then?
You go ahead, B, and I'll chime in.
You brought up Cartoonshi, yes?
Mm-hmm.
So, can you clarify to me what was being done to Cartoonshi from Smash Bandicoot, just so I know for sure if what I'm going to suggest would work?
Constantly spam tagging him on Twitter, hopping into his servers, hopping into friends of his servers, causing all sorts of chaos and madness, telling Cartoonshi to die and all this other stuff. It would just mess with him so much.
Okay, so
he just couldn't handle it. Yes.
Okay. I know that Cartoonshi made a video on Smash Bandicoot. Do you know when that happened? Like, how
that
far
happened
the harassment?
4 years ago, before it ever really started on Cartoonshi's end. It's what brought Cartoonshi to harassment.
Okay. So Cartoonshi put a target on his back.
He was trying to protect his friends, and I fully empathize with that. I've done the same thing multiple times.
Are we aware what finally got Smash off of everybody's backs?
He's not. He's still around, but at a reduced capacity, because he he picked a fight with Charlie.
That's right. He picked a fight with penguins. In that regard, that might specifically be the solution, because a lot of the time, like, what's Cartoon Cheese sub count?
200,000.
Oh God, it's
Huh?
200,000.
200,000.
Okay, that's bigger than I thought. But it specifically may be a matter of, like, they're going after people that they think they can do actual damage to. Charlie, I think, is too big and too disconnected. Like, he does not care about that type of shit. So once it was opened up to Charlie's community, Smash was, like, out of his depth. There wasn't really anything that he could proper do anymore. I don't want to put it on larger creators, but it may be a matter of, like, opening these things up to larger creators being aware of them.
Well, Charlie is pretty powerful. He did bite someone's finger.
But I don't
Well,
know.
keeping in mind that
Sorry.
nothing that happened in Senate or in calls with Smash, and none of that helped at all. Like,
No.
realistically, the thing that got Smash to be less annoying in the end was he picked a fight that he couldn't win. Like, Senate had nothing to do with that. It wasn't helpful.
Obviously. Well, it may have been in the moment. Just wanted to get him to
All
leave
Senate and those calls
cartoon shit
did.
alone.
Yeah, all they did, and this is assuming that even okay, if Smash is a troll or mentally unwell, whichever it is, they wanted attention, and every Senate call, every video just fed into that attention. Like it was actively detrimental.
Sorry.
Yeah, like,
Hold
you know
on.
the phrase, don't feed the trolls.
I do, but at the same time, like, here's where I'll give just a little bit of pushback, because I know releasing the first call where his voice was there, that took there were people who were legitimately scared of him. I don't mean finding him an obnoxious individual or just they couldn't handle his irritation, but they were legitimately scared of him. And hearing his voice and hearing who he actually was, they lost any fear of him. So I think it did at least a little bit of good. Did it stop him? Well, obviously not. But we did everything we could. We even filed police reports. What else could we have done?
So in that situation specifically, it was that opening up the victims to seeing the reality of who was harassing them specifically made them feel better.
Yes.
Okay, so inherently that is different. In cases like that, I could understand the calls being had, and sometimes even the calls going public. It would just be a matter of, like, specifically acknowledging that it is for the sake of the victims, for them to understand who they have been going up against for however amount of time. And this would need to be something that is, like, specified really, really early on, that, like, in cases where you do think the person is mentally unwell, you need to specify, we think this person might be mentally unwell. However, they have been doing blah, 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 blah. You list out the things that they've done. They've made people uncomfortable, and this call was set up so that the people who have been made uncomfortable can come to understand who they have been facing up against, and to potentially dissuade some of those fears. Because then
Okay, I
it
think
becomes then it's presented, and it hopefully, if the call, goes productively, it's presented in a much more productive way, and not just as, we are making fun of this person because they are a dick and they have been a dick for a really long time.
And also keeping in mind that the Smash saga, the fact that you can even call it that, was like many different just calls making fun of the dude. Like if you wanted to what's the word? Not de-illusion.
Defang.
Demystify. Defang works too. The idea of Smash once was enough. The rest was just entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. Okay. Go ahead, Phineas.
Well, yeah, well, we're on the topic with the whole people who aren't, like, don't have the mental faculties. Yeah. I think within things like what happened with Dar, with how we had the private call with Dar, and then how Dar, you wound up getting into a Twitter fight with Dar. That's what I'm under the assumption happened. If it happened differently, feel free to correct me. And then Dar came in here and brought, I think in those cases where it's like we could tell who they are, it should just not have happened in a server like that.
No, that's genuine criticism. I'm glad Dar still got help by the end of that, because Lord knows they needed it.
Well,
But no, I understand that.
The ongoing fear has been because I've been someone who I've been sticking with Dar from that very day. Since Dar came back to me more once because admittedly there are some good at putting certain calls out. Dar realized that Rebecca was drinking her garbage because she wound up watching the Sean call, and stuff within that, and that was what led to her coming to me and stuff within that. But there's moments that she goes through, and Asuka and I have dealt with oftentimes seeing Dar going off on about a lot of these things, either in our DMs. Like she literally made a group chat with everyone else in the investigation team that we've had, except for me, because she wasn't trusting me because she's been asking for the Senate call to be released to her, and I've not given her that chance, only because I don't think her seeing that call would help her
She's not
mentally.
stable.
Right.
She's not stable, and she needs help. And I wish there was more I could do to help her.
I do too.
I would like to ask Ponder a question. What did you mean by putting a target on his back when you were referring to Cartoon She?
Him making the video, okay, if I could make a comparison, it's like if somebody started talking about a video, or somebody made a video where they were talking about someone who is, and I have a precedent for this because it's happened before, someone made a video talking about someone who was making sexual content of creators because they were harassing them with like sexual art of their persona, and then that person turns to making sexual art of the very creator who spoke about them. There was somebody who approached me asking me to talk about someone who was doing that in the community, and I said no, because I knew for a fact that if I did, they were going to start drawing sexual art of my persona, because now I have expressed distaste with what they are doing, and they do it out of spite.
Okay.
It's essentially announcing your existence to someone that you would rather not know of your existence.
Yes.
Well, first off, Smash was already very well aware of Cartoon She before that point.
Yeah, but Cartoon She hadn't spoken about Smash is the problem. Is like once Cartoon She opened it up to the public, made a video acknowledging what Smash was doing behind the scenes, Smash went after Cartoon She because he felt slighted.
Are you saying it was Cartoon
That's
She's
the
fault
point.
he was harassed?
I'm not saying it was Cartoon She's fault.
Okay,
I'm saying that
No,
that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that he did something that made Smash Bandicoot feel slighted, so Smash Bandicoot opted to harass him in turn. That is not Cartoon She's fault. It is still Smash Bandicoot's fault. I'm saying the specific action is what led to Smash Bandicoot making that decision. And it is not Cartoon She's fault. Smash Bandicoot is still at fault for making that choice. But that does happen. And we can't really deny that that happens.
Yeah, that's kind of a ridiculous point to try and bring up, to be honest. Like,
I was just asking.
I'll put it to Ephraim.
Yeah, I understand.
I'll put it to Ephraim this way. Okay, so you know about Foxton and Grimskull, yes?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, who was their initial beef with?
That was Harley, wasn't it?
Are they currently beefing with Harley?
I don't think so. Maybe.
Who are they currently going after and obsessing with now?
You, if I'm not mistaken.
Why do you think that is?
Because you talked about. Okay, I get it. I get it now. Okay. And by the way,
and that was for the record, Ephraim, that was intentional to get them off Harley's back.
Okay, and by the way, Ponder, I didn't think what I was proposing was likely what you meant. I just wanted to. I just felt like I needed to ask it.
It's okay. I totally understand. Like it does sort of sound like victim blaming, but the onus of the choice of the action is still on the perpetrator. People should be allowed to talk about someone's deplorable actions when they are actively harassing a person, but the sad reality is when a person has harassment as like their main form of controlling and manipulating the behavior of others, if you talk about it, they feel personally slighted and they turn to you as like, okay, now this person is my new target. I'm going to harass them. I'm going to make them rue the day they ever fucking open their mouth about me. That is what they.
I think of really
And
good.
that's-
I think a really good example is something I don't talk about, because I was also a bit. I don't know the word victim is appropriate in this one. I will use the word victim, but I'll use it in like quotations here. Of one of the artists who was making porn of my character. They obviously were trying to elicit a reaction from me. They did it of Artie and my character, and again, having that kind of material drawn of your groomer, and then yeah, that's the trade. But again, I didn't give it attention. I didn't publicly acknowledge it. I didn't talk about it because one, you don't feed trolls, but two, I want them to think I didn't know about it, you know. And then they kept on going. I wasn't giving it attention, but then they crossed the line for me. They did art of my character and one of the miners within my server, so this made me aware that okay, they have to be in my space to work it out. So I started reaching out to people like Lio, to people like it's multiple people who are aware of this, and he said, oh yeah, no, this was an active thing. So it kind of annoyed me how it wasn't dug into more, because within an hour of me finding out of that image, I was able to work out all the users in all 4 of the servers, like my server, Peach's server, Lio server, and another server, and then get that person, like give the ID to Lio and get them banned. And because I didn't say anything to them, but it was more the idea of, I know who you are, and you have been banned without even me publicly acknowledging that, and they've stopped. They have not made a single image since. So it's just the idea, like, there is many ways people can go about it and approach it without making it a whole public spectacle to get these people to go away.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, he didn't go away. He just chose different targets. I have his information now, so if people want to file reports, they can and should. But that's getting a little bit further off the beaten path here.
Yeah.
Because the point is, and this is one reason why I made it a point to continue to prod Smash whenever he was giving grief to Cartoon Sheet, because with idiots like, Grimskull and them, it worked, and it's still working. He hasn't talked about Harley in a long time. Why? Because I've angered him, and now I'm his obsession, and I can handle that. That's fine. But anyways, let's get back to Ponder's list, because I don't think she wants to be here all night.
Oh, okay. Okay. Every single call dealing with someone who has been a danger, and this is only in instances where this stuff continues, every single call dealing with someone who has been a danger to others needs to have a mod that is versed in mental health. There needs to be someone there who can step in if things start getting out of hand, or who can recognize negative signs before they get too extreme. And this is like after the fix of like, it should not be present in front of the peanuts / the peons, whatever the hell they're called. Because even in that case, it's not fair for the mods to have to go through that. And if we do release the calls to the individuals after the fact, you've already stated before that there are some calls where they shouldn't have access to them because it is not going to be productive for them to hear what they were like. And I think it would be really, really good to have someone there who can step in before stuff like that happens.
I do have a personal slight rebuttal to that. At what point does it swap from us moderating a Discord server to it basically becoming a job in relation to mental health, an unpaid job in relation to mental health for us to moderate calls?
Yeah. If I can add to that, isn't it again, isn't it ridiculous that it's gotten to the point where talking like we need a mental health professional on hand? Like, this is a Discord that deals with YouTube drama. Like, if you really want to boil it down, and we're talking like we need a shrink on hand, like, is anyone else not noticing this is ridiculous and really out of our area?
Okay, a lot of things can be ridiculous, but these are just hypotheticals we're going over right now. So,
but this is a potential Sorry, go on.
Here's going to be the hot take, and I am genuinely not saying this to be offensive. because the you don't know if you'll trigger your audience. 100% valid. I cannot simultaneously have a server that's supposed to be safe for people and then expose them unintentionally or intentionally. Well, unintentionally, I guess it's not fair because, of course, you're not going to see that coming. But expose them actively to people that can damage that or make them feel unsafe. The caveat to that question is if these people are genuine scumbags, sexual harassers, you name it, the worst of the worst. We have a lot of talk about caring for their mental health, and I'm not saying this to be cruel, but if they're that type of people, why should we?
Yeah, but it's not always that type of people. And most of the people that are, the poster children for people that have been hurt by these kind of calls aren't predators or scumbags. They've just been mentally ill people.
Or might I add within it too, sometimes that even those behaviors you can get it wrong and accidentally hurt things.
So we're specifically talking about the people that have been damaged that were innocent. Okay, that makes sense. All right. Gotcha. Okay,
especially because you're done with predator hunting anyway, so that shouldn't really come into this equation.
You never know, because I can't even sit here and tell you how many times we've had a call where example, Shom's call, right? Not inherently a predator, but and Ponder was there for the entirety. We brought him in, and I was stern with him because he immediately came in trying to make excuses. I didn't insult him in the fact that he was on the spectrum or anything, but it was about do not get inappropriate in terms of your terminology with kids, like asking for hugs, or don't trauma dump to them. And then it somehow came out about how he sent children pornography and tried to get them to go after a convicted child predator in commentary videos. So sometimes I literally just run into these things not even expecting them or knowing that they existed, because nobody knew until we had that call.
Yeah, and I think the Shomes call specifically, it was also revealed within the call that he was there was like the 16 or 17-year-old, and he asked them like, would you miss me if I'm not going to get into it, but he was in fairness, there are aspects of that call that I really don't agree with. It sort of caught me off guard at the moment, but there was one person who sort of descended into yelling at one point, and I understand things got heated, but it was not productive by that point. But yes, Mally's right. It was basically a predator jump scare where, like, not only do you find out that somebody is expressing ideation to very, very young individuals and asking those individuals, would you miss me if I was gone in those specific instances? And then you find out, they were spreading around inappropriate material, encouraging those young individuals to make content on or get into contact with like notorious predators. It does sort of just like pop up every once in a while, and you don't always expect it to be there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. While I may not be actively looking for these people, I mean, if they show up, I've got to do something. And
I think on that one you should take Barbara's advice on, like, reporting it to the correct authorities and going down that route. Just the second you found out that they've confessed to such behaviours, it says, okay, you have broken the law, you are an actual criminal, I cannot continue this call, I will be making the relevant reports.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the criticism there is if we run into something like that, make it known and cut it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and that makes sense, even if it's like a private call. So, okay, thank you. That makes things a lot more cut and dry for me. I appreciate that. And I know it's probably kind of ridiculous that you feel you have to hold my hand through some of this, but I do genuinely have to walk through some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, yeah, I actually did re-listen to that call recently, and there was some behavior there that on reflex, I'm like, could have done that better. So, what's your next point?
Okay, so I think that you need to attend classes pertaining to mental health. I understand that getting all of that done immediately would be a problem, because I don't know like how much time you have, but I think if you address situations like this, it does need to be done. It needs to be worked towards at the very least, because it's important that the person running the server has some knowledge in this regard too. It cannot be entirely put on like a small group of mods who may or may not always be available for these sessions. And I did bring up earlier that we can have like the satirical calls where people role play manipulative characters. That would probably also help into it a lot, because I understand that you learn by doing. Yeah, but
I agree with what Ponder is saying, and I would add to that in that you should not be cutting your teeth on real people while you're still figuring this out.
And I had something.
Go ahead.
I think it's a good point, because one issue I have been having is the fact that because the people within the server are not sure who has like knowledge on mental health or will be understanding, it puts added pressure on the staff members they feel comfortable going to. It needs to be widened, because I know for a fact that just this month I had like 10 to 12 people coming to me, and it's starting to be overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way my life is, so I get it.
I do have another question which just come to my mind. It's not relevant to not relevant to what's just been said, but I think it's a question what needs to be asked. If you knew, not encompassing the abuse what Peaches put you through, but if you knew all the actions of what Peaches did, within the FCK, within the group chats, within the amino, would you drop them? Would you drop someone that close if you knew that they did this to people, did this to children?
It's a harder question simply because here's where I struggle on this, and this is what I voiced to you. I do know that people who have been groomed are used to certain normalized behavior, especially considering that was 5 years ago. They were literally still in contact with their groomer. That was even before their drama happened. So I'm trying to find, because I've been told by so many people that I'm too hard on people who make mistakes like that, or that I don't understand things fully, and I'd like to think that my moral censure will be fine, but I'm trying to figure out, would it be right if that person was, now keep in mind, this is what the hypothetical that they didn't continue it. We both know they did. You made that very clear through the Glitchtail chat, right? If I was of the belief they weren't predating on them, and that was behavior they had stopped and made no excuses for, and just admitted, yeah, and I was screwed up because of XYZ, and I own it, I think that might be a different situation. But as I know now, as it is, yes, I would have dropped Peaches, because they didn't change their behavior. They actively lied about it, and they lied to you, they lied to me, they even lied to Lumi. For some reason, they told Sai and Hidden what happened, but they didn't tell us.
Still insane.
I'm still not the time.
Yeah.
Not the place. Give me a minute, because that is frustrating. But no, I don't care for that type of behavior. Again, if it's something that was normalized, or they, for lack of a better word, didn't think, because again, we've ran into servers before where people have just not given any thought to what they're posting, because, well, it's the internet and nobody gives any thought to age. If it's something that's corrective, that's one thing. If it's something in regards to predation, they're trying to suss out the children, which is one reason why I still take issue with Nix and Jackie. That would be another. So it's not as black and white as I'd probably wish it was, because that's so much simpler to deal with.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Could I jump in real quick?
No Germans allowed.
Oh, fuck off.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Schmo.
God damn. Now, jumping back to the point Asuka made, it's not just an issue with the mods. It got to the point where even I had that happen a few times, even today, and I think we should just make a rule again stating that people here aren't complete vent bags, especially not in public.
Okay. This is something we can get into a little later, because I don't know if the venting is about mental health or the venting is about the fact that they're mad about sending in the server. So can we clarify which one that is real quick?
Things.
Okay. Here's where I I have to say the hard thing. The thing that if Monstrous would hear would absolutely call me a hypocrite for, you've got to put up boundaries. You've got to. I can't do that for you. Making rules does not stop it if you don't have a personal boundary up.
You can't do that for yourself.
That is fair.
Sorry.
But at the same time, I do feel like it especially has gotten a bigger problem in this server because people feel way too comfortable sharing everything.
Well, hold on. To your point, Mali, Discord is Discord is fostering this environment. Is the environment that Smout's talking about is like the venting. So that's not relation so much to the gallery calls and accountability. So I'm kind
It
of
is
missing
a little bit in that I'm relating it to what Ponda was saying earlier about in the calls you have to have someone who is basically a qualified shrink. It fosters this environment of like, oh, there's mental health advocates here, and I can talk to them. Like, shrinks get paid hundreds upon hundreds of dollars an hour. Discord moderators don't get paid shit.
And shrinks have their own shrinks.
True. Okay, so thank you for requantifying that because I didn't quite understand. So, okay, you said mental health classes. Are we talking about like at a college or what?
I don't know what you have available in your area. It could be like online courses. It may not necessarily have to be like at a college. Like it would entirely be dependent on what you have available to you.
Okay, so I think you're talking about Lio going to therapy, not learning therapy, right?
I'm speaking about both. I think in general, Lio lacks a lot of understanding of like manipulative tactics and like signs of potential victimhood. Like I've had instances where like I'll pick up I'll pick up on something because I've had to look into psychology pertaining to a specific issue for like something in my own life, and then Lio is like wholly unaware of it because he hasn't looked into the same information that I have, and I feel like just having that information on hand, even if it's just like a cursory mild understanding, may help to mitigate some of the issues.
Although you do run the risk of armchair psychology on that.
There would be like absolutely no diagnosis. It would just be like picking up on some things that people are putting down, like specifically if they're using manipulative language or if they're like Lio wasn't aware of veiled threats. Like he was like, if I'm not saying that I'm threatening them, then it's not a threat. Like he was, you know, wholly unaware of the concept of a veiled threat and how that is conveyed to other people. Like information like that, I think would be very important.
Wait a minute. I want to address it with Mali. Mali, if we were cutting out all the gallery calls and the accountability calls publicly, what would be the issue of the server existing as just a nerd space?
That's fine, but that's not what it is.
That's what I'm trying to gear it towards mostly, but let's continue. Just wanted to make sure I was clear on that. Okay, so Ponder is right about that, because when I did open my DMs with Peaches to other people who had a bit more knowledge, they were able to point things out immediately that I had absolutely no clue about. So that's a fair criticism. When I was younger, things like psychology were absolutely demonized. And I mean that by the textbook definition. It was considered wrong morally in the eyes of the Lord. So,
well, something I would like to point out with Peaches in particular, Peaches was using Darvo tactics, and inherently it is more difficult to recognize Darvo tactics when you are on the receiving end of them, especially if you are not communicating about like your interactions with the perpetrator of those tactics with other people. Like that's a thing. That is what they are designed to do.
Okay. So I'll look up what I can find, because if I can get everything going the way it needs to, I can actually have free time again. So what's your next point?
Let me see. That's the wrong thing.
I actually, B, can I just jump? I kind of need to say something that is going to sound very cruel, but I feel like it's worth saying.
Sure.
So I wasn't going to mention Peaches because, but I kind of have to now. So again, this goes down to why I don't think you, Lio, should be doing this kind of thing. Because you are the kind of person that was influenced by someone manipulating you to the point that you were ready to publicly hurt people with incorrect information. And while I appreciate that Peaches was in your ear about that, you were still going to be the weapon to hurt other people. Don't you think that's a problem?
Well, clearly I do. Otherwise I wouldn't have addressed it.
Okay, but can you not see how that might very well happen again, especially seeing as it only just happened? Like you haven't had time to even go away and improve. Like this just happened.
Yeah, Lio, what if I'm using Darvo on you? You wouldn't know.
Frankly,
You
if you're
talk a
using
lot about like having people around you that you can trust and that will steer you straight. I remember you telling me that in the call we had in February, where you were citing basically all of the people who did not steer you straight. How do you know that's not just happening again and you're going to hurt more people?
Well, I'm not saying this is a gotcha. I'm genuinely not, but I could be thinking the same thing about what you're doing here.
You very well could, but I haven't done what you've done.
No, but the point is like manipulating people. I'm saying that like, how do I know you're not doing that to me?
I mean, okay, let's say for example I am manipulating you. Let's say I am the mastermind. I am manipulating you. My net goal is for you to stop hurting people, not to go after people.
Yeah.
So even if I am manipulating you, it's for the greater good. Like I'm not manipulating you. Yeah, the greater good. Yeah, I'm not going and oh, this person is bad and we should make videos on them and I'm not doing that. I'm telling you that I think you fucked up and you shouldn't be doing this.
Okay. I understand that. That's why I'm literally listening to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm hearing you out instead of just telling you no and removing you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving that space for that criticism. And I am genuinely hearing you all out as best as I can. You might need to walk me through some things because I actually don't get it. But I'm not here thumping my chest and pushing things against you saying no because I want to. I'm actually listening to you.
Mm-hmm. Again, like, yeah, I mean, that's fine. You can say that. That doesn't really change anything that I said, but okay, I have noted it.
How does that not change anything you said? You said you're worried about me being used to weaponize things again. One way I don't do that is by listening to more than just one doggone person. And the people who were on my mod staff then were also dealing with Peaches doing that. There are people here now that don't deal with that, and there's also people here who have unquestionably got in my face before when they think I'm screwing up. And I don't mean for their own benefit. I mean just because they know I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm. See, for me, it's just I've heard you say this before when you were, you know, actively thinking ill of people who didn't deserve it and thinking about making videos on them and damaging them. So for me, it's like it's all very well and good that you say that, but I've heard this before, so grain of salt. I'm sorry, that's not a nice comment or thought, but it is what it is.
Then let me be clear here. At the end of the day, you could go about your business and not interact or care about anything I do going forward, so why?
So why what?
Why do you concern yourself with it?
You mean why am I concerned with the existence of this Discord and you heading it?
Yes.
Because I think it's damaging to people, and it's a bit of a circus show. And it's I knew that at very least I could get into a call like this and say it. There's not many other people that might do that. So yeah, I felt, you know what, fuck it. I have something to say. I think it should be said, and you might hear it. That's why I bothered.
And you don't think there's other worse places you could have done that at? Why this one? Just because I'm the closest?
Well, because I don't know other worse places. I can't go and speak to places I don't even know about.
It's also like if Mali has a direct in to talk to you, she may not have that direct in to talk to other people who are engaging in like similarly inappropriate or unproductive content.
And on top of that, you're essentially asking me, sorry, officer, I understand I let that bin on fire, but that man over there did it too. Why aren't you talking to them? Like, you understand that's just a deflection, right?
It's not really a deflection. I'm asking a question because I don't understand.
Okay, well,
I'm not trying
I'm
to
letting
take
you know
the point
it's
off
a
of
bit
me.
of a deflection.
I'm
letting you know I'm letting you know it's a pointless line of inquiry.
Okay. What's your next point, Ponder? Whatever.
I would. Okay. I just wanted to say, you said Lio hadn't given himself a chance to be better after the Peaches thing. What? In regards to what?
Don't. Ephraim, I'm an adult. That's between Mali and me. It does not involve you.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So then the next point is, this is partially in reference to the note that you might want to look into psychology. It might be worth setting up like a server Patreon where all of the funds provided go into either paying for you to attend mental health awareness classes or to pay legal or psychology professionals for their expertise on subjects, just so it's not like the mods and their cursory, potentially completely wrong knowledge, you would end up having to provide proof that the funds are going to where they're supposed to be going on the regular. But this is something maybe to consider. And this also says, in this regard, I should acknowledge that specifically using the funds for Lio to take classes to better his knowledge of the subjects may be heavily scrutinized. Some people may view it as morally questionable for Lio to be using other people's money to better his own education, even if it's for the sake of trying to better that understanding, to better the community by proxy. So what I'm suggesting here, there is that inherent potential for backlash, but it is maybe something to consider.
All right. And your next point.
That would be the server needs to be a place where victims or people who suspect that they might be victims can come to ask questions, get advice, and feel safe. In that regard, there needs to be a plethora of resources on hand to help them, specifically with regards to mental health, psychological, sexual, and physical abuse, grooming, predation, and police or law enforcement contacts.
I agree.
Okay, and then after that, it might be worth setting up a spot in the server specifically for those potential victims who have come looking for help. It should be completely hidden from view from other potential general members. Maybe give those who need it special roles that allow them access. And there should be a couple mods whose sole job is to focus on those restricted chats and keep them orderly, safe, and free of triggering topics. They can also step in should those victims express wants to go back to or concede to the demands of their victimizers. However, overall, there should not be any type of venting within that section of the server. It needs to be entirely safe, kind of like a padded room.
I don't know how we could facilitate that, because I'm not saying the idea is not good. Okay, I get it. If I want to make a place where victims can be safe, they need to be able to talk, but I don't even know where I'd get mods like that. That's a lot. That's a lot of work, and it's not the work that I shun at. Like, obviously not, but it's more of like the depth of knowledge and. That's draining for everyone involved so heavily. And I get that's why you said specific mods pertaining only to that. I had an idea, but I don't know how viable it would be. Because I know venting is obviously a very valid way to deal with the frustrations or even with trauma. And I thought about the possibility of having a room to where I don't even know how Discord works. Like as I've said before, and no, Big Cat is not turning the server into a daycare. Lord, where people post and they're the only ones that can see their post, and nobody else can, even if multiple people are posting in there. I don't know if that's possible, but that's an idea, and I'm probably conveying it very poorly because I convey a lot of things very poorly.
Okay, like I said, just a suggestion, but I understand that that is probably not realistically feasible. Okay. So Lio needs to be more forthcoming about the nature of the calls that people are potentially being pulled or invited into. Having now seen how he phrased the call between Rin and Jun would play out, it could be argued that he lied about how that call would play out by omitting the fact that it would have a viewing audience. Obviously, you've clarified that Rin, as far as you're aware, was aware of the gallery call process, but we would sort of have to check on that because as far as we know, you're kind of just guessing or basing on assumptions, and you could be totally wrong. If Rin was unaware of how gallery call works, they could have been completely taken off guard by the presence of a large viewing audience. If Rin didn't know this, that it was objectively sneaky wording, and it could 100% be viewed as lying. It's akin to, I didn't lie to you, I just didn't tell you the whole truth. If there's going to be a viewing audience, then it needs to be specified that there's going to be a viewing audience. If they need to be given the opportunity to reject a call like that, or they need to be given the opportunity to reject a call like that if it's not something that they can handle. Lio, you can't be coy about that stuff. For all you know, it's a trigger for the person being confronted to be like the center of attention or feeling judged. We don't know what anyone's life is like on the other side of the screen, and we cannot begin to guess how each person will react to having that many people rapidly typing out split-second judgments of their character, which you have specified that they can't actually see the chat, but the viewing party audience size is still sometimes an issue.
Yeah.
Oh, I lost my place. This is
Oh.
especially because we know that people fear Lio, and we know that people have lied to him in the moment because they feared confrontation. People may also be less willing to speak up after the gallery call has already begun because they worry that making note that they're not comfortable having so many people watching the conversation will just convey to those people that they are guilty, and they are scared of so many people watching and finding out. I can actually offer not a not a example per se, but you are aware, like, you got into a call with me and another person like a few-ish months ago, maybe like 6 or 5 months ago now, I'm not entirely sure, and I had to specify to you, like, I wasn't comfortable with you being in the call.
Yeah, I remember that call.
Not like one, I should specify I was feeling anxiety in that moment. If people have worse anxiety issues than me, or they're just speaking up for themselves, some people may not speak up in the moment, especially if there's a huge gallery already watching them.
I should preface.
Kumo. Well, why don't you ask Kumo that? Why don't you ask Okumo that?
Or how about the fuck, like, what are you talking about? Like, this person is they're probably making some sort of money off of, like, giving their art, right? Like,
Let me see if I can ask.
It's just insane. Like, you're not the hero that you think you are if you're acting this way. You're, like, actually the villain. Dog Hug says they don't ever get off Discord. By the way,
they didn't. Yeah, no. Lio didn't consider any of this at all. They didn't give a shit about any of this. Like, they truly did not. I refuse to believe that they did. They were just set and determined to act like an entire shithead. Let me see if I can ask.
It's just insane. Like, you're not the hero that you think you are if you're acting this way. You're, like, actually the villain.
I dropped everything to go for it because urgent for me, in relation to a lot of the work that I do around you, often means someone is going through a lot mentally.
All right. What's your next point, Ponder?
So this is as I've written it. A lot of Lio's approach really does feel like he's tricking people into calls where they are going to be on edge right from the get-go, and this being with the intention of putting pressure on them so that they are more likely to fess up to their own mistakes. But not only is this not going to work in that you may get people lying specifically because they don't want to be judged by such a large audience, you may also get cases where people who have been victimized themselves admit to things that they didn't do because they feel pressured in the moment. Again, it goes back to Lio being big scary lion man. Objectively, some people, especially those who have been psychologically beaten down or victimized in the past, are going to cave to fear and peer pressure. If a person has already been gaslit into believing themselves to be an abuser, then they are going to concede to the notion if it's presented by someone that they are intimidated by, or in instances where they feel cornered or helpless, because they will perceive it as the quickest means to stop the interrogation. It won't matter if it's true. All that will matter is if it'll stop the feelings they're having in the moment.
Okay, so I can understand where you're getting at about the audience thing, but even when I have private calls, like, how do I address the fact that they're going to be terrified regardless?
That would fall to, like, having other mods and probably clarifying them to them right at the beginning that the mods are there for, like, their safety and to mediate and to make sure that, like, you don't get out of control.
Okay.
Like, the mods are there to protect them.
Okay. So your overall point on that is also, like, don't do anything solo.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And make sure
okay,
that
thank you for
the
clarifying.
person you have coming in has someone in their corner.
Yep. Yes, that's actually a
that's fair.
good one. It's like I actually brought this up to you a couple weeks ago, is that when you have someone in and you have like a person there to mediate, you have to have a mediator on both sides.
Yeah, that was a valid point. I think I said that to you when that was brought up, because it really is. I guess my only concern with that is if their +1 is belligerent or actively interfering with where we're going, because we've had that happen before. So I guess at that point we reschedule and tell them to find another friend.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's
So,
fair. Because hopefully the things we are dealing with aren't always going to be, this has to be handled right now. And that's not even saying if the server goes on with what it's doing now. I mean, just in general, there's always going to be some sort of conflict or thing that needs to be fixed because we're humans. But go ahead.
that is actually the last of the notes that I have, and completely unrelated. Mali.
Okay, I think I covered everything I wanted to off the top of my head. Give me just 1 second.
Oh, I was just going to
Oh.
ask you a question real quick.
Oh,
Like I said,
yeah.
completely unrelated.
No, hit me.
If someone were to convey your persona in a pose that accurately portrayed your personality, what would it be?
Do you not see me dancing on screen?
I'll draw you dancing then. All right, thank you.
Okay. Okay, bam.
That's all I got.
Okay.
Are you drawing this call, Bonder?
No, I have to draw artwork for the VidCon vlog, and I haven't
Oh.
drawn Mali yet.
VidCon. Anyway.
I mean, like, I fair enough. You're doing great. I'm proud of y'all.
Okay, let me just very quickly check what I have, just in case there's anything I've missed that's important. Oh, something I need to kind of address with you, Lio, as well. It's in the same ballpark because I'm trying to keep just to the nature of these discords and what you do, as opposed to like specific dramas. You just really have got to stop discrediting every detractor you have. Like, it is a pattern with you where if someone says something about you that you don't like or calls you out for something, you tend to back into, well, they did X, Y, or Z, and it's not productive. It's not considering the critique you're getting. I feel like you label people with good and bad strokes, and if you label them with bad, you tune out anything they could possibly have to say, which is also part of the reason I don't think you should be making accountability content. So I'm throwing that criticism at you. And also, you have in the past said to people, I'm thinking of written this because it was the most recent, but I've heard you say it to others. You've told people to get offline when they have either done something terrible, in your opinion, or they are, quote unquote, not acting right. I would argue you have done both of those things, but you're not holding yourself to the same standard of getting offline that you would hold them to. So those are
I'll
essentially
address
two
both of those.
criticisms. Okay, yep, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, it depends on the individual. The people who are currently my detractors, I'm not going to sit here and play pretend like they have some super magical valid points. If they do, or if there are valid points, they can be conveyed by people who are decent, like the one I'm talking to right now. I'm not going to sit here and take somebody who had zoo porn and tells women they should be raped as though they are a genuine point of criticism, nor am I going to take somebody who sits there and threatens to rape other people and flashes pictures of my wife up as though he has genuine criticism. That's not happening.
Okay,
Actually,
I'm going to... yeah, go ahead, Pondo.
I was just going to specify, inherently, even if the criticism is valid, sometimes it's more difficult to recognize the validity of it if it's coming from somebody that you don't respect the opinion of. Some people can have criticism levied to them from two different parties, and they are usually more receptive to it if it is conveyed to them by someone whose opinion they respect.
Well, that's
Like,
true. I should also specify there's critique, and then there's also, like, evidence and claims, and you kind of brush those aside as well, Lio, if the person presenting them is not palatable to you, which is a problem. I'm going to use an analogy, because it's been on loop in my brain forever, and I know you like them. So, if a serial killer tells you that the sky is blue, and you can look up and see that the sky is blue, it doesn't matter that a serial killer is the one that told you that. Does that make sense?
You're right, but the guard next to him can also tell me that.
Okay. That doesn't change the fact that the serial
That's my
killer is
point.
correct in what they're saying. Like, maybe
I'm
it's a
under
matter
no
of
obligation
statistics.
to listen to a serial killer.
Alright. I can't change your value on that. I think you're wrong. I think it causes a lot of unnecessary discourse, but I can't change your mind on that.
Okay. And if we're going to appeal to hypocrisy, I think that is the worst possible case you can make here, but we can't even get into that because we're here to talk about me. So let's go ahead and move on. What's your next thing?
You were going to respond to both the points I brought up. The not
I
acting
just-
right.
I
and you would
did.
No, the second one. The not
Yeah.
acting right.
Yeah,
oh,
the second
is that
one
what
is
you were...
the second. Yeah, that's the hypocrisy concept.
Okay. I mean, obviously, I believe you're a hypocrite based on what you've done and said in private and in public, but, I mean, do you not want to address why the advice that you give, sometimes demand of other people online, doesn't apply to you?
No.
You don't want to?
Nope.
Okay. Alright, that's fine. Anything else?
I mean,
I've got
that
over
was
my
the question to you.
Did you pose a question to me?
He asked if you had anything else.
Why?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
No, I'm done. I don't see anything more productive I can say.
Okay.
Does anyone else in this call have anything to say?
Speak up
Final
now or
thoughts?
forever hold your
Yeah.
peace.
Speak now or shut the fuck up.
So, if I'm understanding you correctly, you basically do not want this server either. You want the server either to be completely reformed as is or be deleted.
Yes.
Okay, and you want this to be changed. If it's to be changed, you want this to be a safe space. Could you repeat again? In what sense?
I would actually, I guess I will also add that if you guys want to run a Bloodsport server, that's fine. Just be honest about it instead of dressing it up in like, oh, we're helping the victims when so much of it is entertainment based. Look, I think the Discord is a bad idea. If you want to keep running it, all I can do is disapprove.
You're allowed to have that opinion. I'm just asking, should we do a reform? What is it that you want us exactly to do? Because this conversation has been going so long, and I would just like a summary, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, in my perfect world, the Discord would just not exist anymore. And if LAIR wanted to have a Discord for a hobbyist or their community or whatever, it would just be that, which means no accountability calls, no gallery calls, like none of that shit. Stop recording content, because that's so much of this becomes content, which is questionable at the least. So yeah, I guess the simplest answer is, yeah, stop the accountability calls, stop the Senate behavior.
Okay, and then what was it about the again, this is just me just trying to recap everything.
Yeah, it's all right.
This has been a very, very long call.
Yeah, it's okay.
Was it like, was there something that you like? I remember you had said something about mental health classes. I'm assuming
yeah, you might be thinking about B.
Oh,
that was directed
Sorry.
towards me, not you, Big Cat. That was directed towards me.
No. I just wanted to just just kind of understand further on this.
Yeah, B, do you just want to restate?
Necessarily
Yeah.
have to be mental health classes. Like, all of my knowledge of mental health is based on things that I have personally experienced and thus had to look up the reasoning behind. It's based on like stuff that I've experienced and had to quantify and understand on my own. So like I don't even have mental health knowledge on like a clinical or a collegiate perspective. It's literally just like things that I've researched. It's just a matter of like, I think if these things are going to be brought up, the main person behind the server needs to have more knowledge than he currently does on these topics.
Is anybody of the staff required to be of this? At least in your ideals.
It would be helpful if people knew something about psychology, but that also makes me worry about like the potential for armchair diagnoses. And in that regard, it may be beneficial for more people to be aware of stuff like that, just so that we can stop each other from having those moments.
I see. Okay. Either way, I'm not really exactly sure what to take from all this. This would take me some time to process, but thank you for giving me the rundown on this.
And Hive, you had something you wanted to ask?
Yeah, no, it's in regards to hopefully if the server does reform to just being a hobbyist and nerd server, what's your value if we still had the group calls as in like gallery calls, but they were more geared towards teaching a new skill? Like I wanted to have a gallery call about teaching people how to do heavy.
I mean, that's
that would be
fine.
totally fine.
Yeah, like that's not at that point. That's not even what I would consider a Senate or a gallery call. That's just a VC. That's just people having a chat about things they enjoy. That's not a confrontation chat or an accountability call or whatever you want to call them. That's just people hanging out and talking about hobbyist things. That's fine.
That's
right.
fair. I just wanted to that.
Yeah, you're good.
It's all right. I have a question. So one of your beefs, for lack of a better word, is that sometimes I will take a personal beef and I will put it out as though it's content, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm not asking as a gotcha. It's because I'm trying to figure out the thought process here.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between doing that with a call and doing that with a storytime animation?
Because a storytime animation doesn't cite specific individuals.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what you mean about like what type. Do you have
Like,
a,
Okay.
I
a
can
reference?
So
sorry.
Got two people.
Sorry.
Okay. So, I'll put it to you this way. The only call I was thinking about recently putting out, after some heavy editing to get rid of the personal details that's nobody's business, was the call I had with Lumi. If I were to put out that call, versus saying a story time about that call, because Lumi isn't their name, regardless of their screen name, what would be the difference there?
I mean, I kind of need a reference point. When you say a story time video, like, what do you mean? What are you thinking? What's in your...
Okay. Sure. Let's actually go with that. You know how you told just the story about the It's 8:30. My brain's shutting. The boy who thought you were the waifu that
The
didn't
nice
realize
guy.
you were a gremlin. Yeah. Okay, like that.
Okay, yeah. I mean,
Something
I
like
could talk about that. So the difference in that regard would be A, it's just a personal experience story. B, no one knows who that person is. That, as far as I know, they don't even have an online presence. And C, it wasn't airing out beef. It's like, hey, this is something that happened in my childhood. Not, hey, here's a drama that's happening right now, and the person I'm mad at have a video talking about how shit they are. I don't think those two things are that you can correlate those.
Well, I guess it's because the underlying thing is like the emotion and the experience behind it, whereas you're seeing it from a different, disconnected point of view. That's probably where the disconnect here might be. But inherently, let's use the Lumi call for example. Why do you find that so distasteful?
You mean the idea of you making a video out of the Lumi call?
If I were to say, hey, I've talked about Lumi in the past video, here's the context to what they did and why, and here's my last conversation with them, why would that, in your opinion, be distasteful?
Well, already you're talking about a different thing. You're talking about, here is this person, naming this person who has been an online figure, here is my beef with them, and sharing a call that you had with them. I assume a private call, I don't fucking know.
Well, no,
it's a very different beast. Like, we're kind of talking about apples and pears here.
I'm not asking in comparison to the story time. I'm asking, I apologize, that was not communicated well. Again, I sometimes really struggle with conveying what I mean to people, and sometimes I can just shoot off. I have I have like connective thought processes where I connect from one thing to one thing to one thing, and then I'm like 5 steps disconnected. So, go ahead.
I could maybe offer a example of the difference. So you're aware of like the person who approached me at VidCon and like how we thought that was inappropriate, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so in my VidCon video, I talk about the fact that I was approached by somebody at VidCon. At no point do I specify who this person is. The big difference would be if in my video I said flat fucking out their username, and I approached I just presented all the other information the same.
Okay.
And if I may take this a step further, a bit closer to what you're talking about, Lio, if that same person, if I came out with a call-out video on the shit they did and said to me, that would be more similar to what you're talking about with Lumi. Do you not think that would be distasteful?
Well, your value has always been apparently that you don't do call-out videos, but no, not inherently. I mean, we've had people in this server, people have done call-out videos on.
Okay, so you're just so I'm kind of, again, nail hammer. If I made a video tomorrow with that calling that person out with that call in the video, would that be okay?
I don't see the problem with it.
Oh my god, Mali, we have the green light. No, I'm sorry. I would not do that.
Oh no, I can promise you my DMs would be lit up the next morning, but no, I don't inherently think there's a problem.
But I mean, that's a good kind of, I guess, yeah, that's a good reference point. So it's like, that's your value on it. We don't share that value.
Well, I'm trying, that's it. I know we don't share that value. I'm trying to understand why you have that value. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Okay. I think it's unnecessary drama. I think it provokes problems where there doesn't need to be. I think it's weaponizing my audience to fight my battles for me, painting pictures of others that might not be fair. Like, there's kind of a myriad of reasons I don't do that kind of thing.
Okay, we're not talking about what you personally do. because you say, like, it paints a picture of them. Well, if that's what they've done, well,
Sorry, I
I'm
thought you
not
wanted
talking-
my value on it.
I want your value, but I'm trying again. This is me trying to understand it, so I apologize again. I'm going to screw up my wording. Okay. So by your value, you think it's inherently trying to weaponize your audience, and that it would be unfair to paint them in that light due to your personal experience with them.
Yeah. I also think it's unnecessary drama. It's like, I hate you, so I'm going to make this a public spectacle and drag you through the mud because I hate you.
At what point then does it go from a personal drama to this person has done something really horrific to me, and I want to warn people about their behavior?
Well, it would kind of probably predicate on like the expectation that they would do it to other people.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I guess I can kind of use an example of this, because I very nearly did make a call-out video at one point. It was kind of going to be a joke, but it would have still been a call-out video about some age-old fucking Tumblr fanfiction drama. And it was very much this person upset me, and they are a bastard online, and they very well might be a bastard online to other people. But then I sat back and I looked at it, I'm like, well, this is petty and unnecessary. And realistically, like, no one's really going to be warned of this behavior so much as they're just going to be mad at this person. You've got to... Every situation is different, I think. And our line is not the same.
I'm gonna keep going with the example I'm giving, because again, I'm genuinely trying to feel out and understand this. With Lumi, Lumi did a lot of stuff. Lumi lied to a lot of people. Lumi tried to ruin whatever life or whatever anything else I had. Lumi actively manipulated other people. Lumi dicked around with the server. Lumi had acted very spiteful and malicious to these ends to a point to where they were giddy about it. And even in the call we have, there's not much in the way of them obviously regretting it. They were belligerent the entire time. So if they're willing to do this to somebody they said they were close to, I worry they're going to do it to other people. And while I don't
I'm going to
have...
interject very strongly here, because Lumi did basically the same thing that you were doing. Lumi, the only difference between you and Lumi in regards to being manipulated by Peaches is that Lumi came after you. That's the only difference here.
No, there's a lot of differences. They're just things you don't know.
I think the only difference is that it was done to you instead of others.
No.
I think that's...
Let me
explain. Let me explain. So, the thing that I've heard since all of this happened is that you were manipulated by Peaches, and yeah, your actions were your actions, but you have to take into account that you were manipulated. Lumi was in the same boat. The only difference is that you became the scapegoat, and then Lumi kind of took your place in that regard. And it's not fair, in my opinion, for you to hold Lumi to the fire for the same thing that happened to you. But I understand that you hate Lumi, and that you feel some kind of personal way about it, because Lumi did that to you. But from a general perspective, it's... Again, it's hypocrisy. You're essentially holding Lumi to the fire for things that you also have done.
No, I'm not, because again, you actually don't know, Mali. And this is where I actually am going to be very strong against you. Did you see the BK logs?
BK, you're gonna have to elaborate. What's
It was
BK
Peaches. It was Peaches' personal little server. Because you can say that Lumi did the same thing as I did. No, they did not. Lumi was 12 different times worse than I was.
In what way?
Their malice, for one, the giddy enjoyment they got out of it, 2, and 3, refusing to take any actual accountability until way after they got called out for that behavior. In the sense that even when they disconnected from Peaches, they didn't want to really do anything. And then they sat in a call with me, belligerent about it.
Okay,
so
you're upset because Lumi did shitty things, yeah? That's like, if you boil it down, you're upset because Lumi did shitty things.
You can boil that down about a lot of things that are terrible to people.
Yeah, that's kind of the point. You also did shitty things. Why does Lumi get this energy and you don't?
Are those equal in this case?
Hard to say, in the sense that I feel like it depends on who you're asking. Like, if Lumi did something specifically shitty to someone else, then they're gonna have a different reaction to it. That's pretty normal. But I would say that you have both done equally bad things, yeah.
You say that without full knowledge of what Lumi's done. Okay.
I mean, can you give me off top of your head the worst thing Lumi has done?
I could try to, but Mali, I think you're cemented in this, and I'm not going to push you any further. That's your business, not mine.
All right. What? Okay. I mean, you say that I don't have the knowledge to speak on this, but then when I ask for the clarity, you won't tell me. So it's like, you're ignorant, so therefore shut up. But also, I'm not going to fix the ignorance.
It's not your ignorance, therefore shut up. It genuinely isn't, or at least I'm not trying to make it. Is that anytime I try to give you any sort of elaboration, you essentially boil it down to, well, Lumi did bad things. So yeah, but Lumi did things that were worse than me.
Okay.
Lumi...
I've been messaged by Dorito, and something I want to add is something that I said in the call of Hidden, and the distress that the video on me caused. The video of me and Dorito. Me and Dorito have given you a lot of grace, and again, I really hate you saying it again because I don't like using it as a gotcha, but it's just the not a gotcha, just holding it over people's heads. I hate doing that, but it's the idea of Lumi helped Peaches paint you as a predator, inadvertently or not, meaning to or not, blah blah blah, is something they did. Peaches also made you inadvertently do the same thing. They claimed that I did sexual roleplay around children, and that was portrayed in the video. That could have been irreversible damage to me and to my partner. Lumi did a 2-page document and fucked up the mod roles completely. That was a disgusting move. I got a 40-minute video which caused me to break down and caused Dorito to quit Discord for 2 weeks, and he was throwing up constantly, mentally distressed, and had suicidal ideations because of that video. It's the idea that Peaches has been an absolutely disgusting creature to multiple people, and it's just, that's why I talk to Lumi in that way, because I see it from both ways. You were both taken advantage by Peaches, and I just feel like that grace isn't provided the same way to Lumi as it has been provided to you. In no way, and I'm not saying you don't have the right to be livid at Lumi. You have your full right to have this anger, but it's understanding the grace which has been provided to you, and could you provide it to other people?
All right,
and
I'll ask you direct.
Wait, Dorito just want to say something because they've unmuted. So.
Go
ahead. Okay, so correction. It was not 2 weeks, Crystal. It was 1 week. You goober, you dummy.
Line for clout.
Line for clout again. But yeah, I just want to point out that, yeah, it's like, yes, you're completely right that Lumi has done some horrible things. Lumi has fucked up. Like, I have flatly told, Lumi to their face, hey, I don't like you, right? I flatly told Lumi to their face, how I felt about them, at the time, right? And you're completely right for disliking Lumi, for not trusting them, for thinking they're a massive dick and a stupid... I can't word myself correctly. But I don't like how you're kind of downplaying what you did to me and Crystal, if I'm just gonna be completely honest, because I get it, you were pressured into doing it, and fucking the people who helped you were lying to you and stuff, but it's still, you had the evidence, just reading, the screenshots, it wasn't right, and you're, 38 years old, dude, I don't, it feels like you're downplaying what you did. I know you're not trying to downplay. You're trying to, but it feels like you are. That's
Can I
it.
try and summarize this? It's essentially what we're saying is that you're expecting or given grace that you don't provide to Lumi, or in this case, others in general. Now, I do kind of need to loop it back because we got a little lost in the weeds about is Lumi bad, is Lio bad, which isn't actually the point. Mm-hmm. The point was talking about if you made a video about Lumi and if that would be appropriate, blah blah blah. Yep. And your kind of rebuttal to that was, well, Lumi did bad things, they might do again, correct?
Yeah.
So that's the purpose of the video, is to raise awareness, essentially, is what you're saying. And I take issue with that because, again, if we look at, what Lumi did, what you did, doesn't it also stand to reason that you should be warned, people should be warned of what you've done? Is that not a value you hold for yourself?
They already are.
Okay, so you're okay with the videos about you from, like, you know, Akumu, Leah, those people, because they're warning others about your behavior.
I'm not okay with dishonest people, but if they are being honest about it and they genuinely feel that, that's another matter. You don't want to talk about Leia with me. That's going to end very poorly.
You're right, I don't want to talk about Leia with you. I'm just using them as a reference point.
If I could offer
I think you need to.
Sorry.
Sure.
So
Go ahead.
I understand specifically like the feelings towards Lumi. However, you did bring up earlier that Lumi was like giddy in trying to take you down. I would like to point out that if Lumi believed what Peaches was saying, that you were an abuser, it may have been that Lumi was giddy about taking you down because Lumi thought that they were taking down an abuser. And also, if your mindset is that you don't like dishonest individuals who are like potentially willing to portray information dishonestly, it can't be discounted that your own feelings on a matter can make it more difficult for you to recognize like the truth of a situation or give someone the benefit of the doubt if you feel personally slighted. So your video could come off as dishonest to some people because they don't have the context of like this is driven by your own feelings. And that may make it difficult for you to like recognize Lumi's like where Lumi's coming from.
And keeping in mind, if the idea is to warn people of others' behavior, that would imply that they're going to do this again. And again, Lumi's whole thing is that they basically were you after what happened to you. So if you can get better and realize I was manipulated and not do this again, wouldn't the same apply to Lumi?
I guess the disconnect here is, and I'll use Crystal for this since Crystal keeps hopping in.
Hi.
And Big Cat, if you need to leave, you can bounce. We'll provide a recording later.
With 3,788 left.
I have consistently been apologetic to Crystal. I'm literally giving Crystal and Dorito the money from that video because of that. It's also why when either of them come to me with an issue, I don't dismiss them. I don't ignore them. I hear them because I don't want to be in that position again. When I confronted Lumi, it was consistent belligerence. I don't think Lumi was sorry. I think Lumi didn't like the inconvenience of having to answer questions.
Yeah, I do want to clear. I don't like you constantly raising. You saw how annoyed I got when like I found out the stuff with Vin was already relayed. I don't like doing it. It's just like I feel in the context of where it's being said, it feels like it is a good point to make, not to hold it over your head, just to be like, hey, this happened, kind of thing. Also, you had a direct question for me, before like Dorito said something, if you remember it.
No.
Yeah, you said like.
It's been a minute. My brain.
Yeah, you said like you had a.
So I'm saying like my brain addled.
Yeah, no, fair enough. It's just like. I do completely get your anger. I get your frustration with Lumi. But one point I would like to make about the story time thing, because it's something that I feel was missed. If you are going to, let's just say, I had absolute beef with Streamline, right? They were slating the color blue, and I adore the color blue, right? And I'm like, man, I want to talk about this. There's two ways I could go about it. If I was to make a general video being like, oh yeah, no, I've dealt with certain people who've been slating the color blue for no reason, and it frustrates me because X, Y, and Z, people don't take into account how awesome blue is. While yes, I'm inferring to Streamline, no one can work out I'm talking about Streamline. But if I'm like, oh yeah, this person called Lumi has done this to me, here's the cool, it makes it that more personal, not attack, but I would say that's to distinguish between a storytime video and a response video or a drama video per se. That's just how I would see it. I'm not saying you're wrong to do it. If you do want to do that, you're in your full right to. It's just that I just feel like that difference wasn't established when that whole topic was going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Mali, if you've had enough, you can go ahead and log off. Thank you for your time.
All right. Peace. Bye.
Bye, Mali.
Bye. We're left.
But no, like I'm glad this conversation has happened. I feel like. Oh, you want to say something, Dorito?
Yeah, give me a second to figure out how to word this. Ah, fuck. I am not good at wording. A second. Yeah, so I wanted to add to like Crystal's point. Yeah, I keep doing that. But like, I don't think you should like. I'm not saying like when I was making my point that oh you fucking also kind of fuck you. Well, it wasn't like oh you should forgive Lumi because I forgave you. No, that's not it. You don't have to forgive Lumi. It's like you feel however you want towards Lumi. It's more of the idea that you're not taking. I feel like you're not taking into consideration that like yeah, Lumi was also manipulated by Peaches, and yeah, Lumi is just like yeah, Lumi didn't go like to your fucking DMs immediately apologizing. But I'm gonna be completely honest. It took you a while to apologize to me too. It took you a while to apologize to me too, and I know
But it's
Lumi
fair.
probably isn't going to. But, like it's
No, that's
yeah,
fair.
but like
But
yeah.
I guess my frustration here is, when you guys, even now when you guys come at me about the fact that I've done damage to you, I'm not belligerent to you about it. I give you as many answers as I can. Lumi and Crystal may disagree with it, but everybody else who's listened to the call, Lumi was completely belligerent. There wasn't any ounce of remorse that I could pick up on his end, like at all. That's the sticking point, because I have forgiven people for doing horrible, awful things, especially to me. But like with Lumi, I guess that's the main sticking point, is they did all this, and when they're confronted, like they don't actually care.
That's
That's what's
again
bothering me.
I wasn't really in that like call, but I have
You weren't in the
had
call, I know.
but like I have had a call with Lumi and where the two of us like talk, and I know like they can be very like how they did come off was kind of like they don't care. That's what kind of came off to me like because again that was the same call where I was just like I don't like you, I don't forgive you, I don't like you because it came off like they didn't care. But like over time, it kind of did feel like they cared. Like I don't believe that Louis isn't apologetic. At least like from my experience, because they have like apologized to me multiple times, and when I flatly told them, "Hey, I don't want to like be involved in this like nonsense," they respected my boundaries and they didn't DM me. I was the one who DM'd them first to like talk to them. So like,
No, wait.
yeah,
You've actually given Lio a point without even knowing. In the idea, because I was in both the call with you and Lumi, and I was in a call with Lio and Lumi, and there was a difference in mannerisms, and I actually kind of do agree with Lio. Now, actually, like remembering that call, it's like, no, it does seem less empathetic. So yeah, Lio, I will definitely give you that. Now like I reflected on both calls, it's like, wait, hold on, I see what you're getting at. Actually,
like I don't want to I don't want to point fingers. I really do not want to like go and say this is Lio's fault, but Lio and I can also hold each other like very differently, methinks.
Yeah.
Because again, like I was honestly like again, I am a person who is just like I do not hold that strong feelings. Like my feelings are strong, but they're not that strong. Like outwardly, I'm just like cool. I dislike you. Bye. I really don't care what you're gonna say. Like it's just like bye. Like that's just me.
But say on the other hand.
No. See differences. Say explosion.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying I don't get the criticism. I get it. It's just if Lumi had actually come into that call, actually apologetic, actually answered the questions, I'd probably have a completely different value. And the thing is, I do forgive Lumi. I don't want anybody else to go through that nonsense because that was awful.
Well, because I think like Peaches was a learning experience for a lot of people.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Lumi, hold on. Lumi also slung around everybody else's trauma and thought that was fine too. So.
Oh yeah, no, I have memed them for that. Do not worry. Like you saw the fucking fire in my stomach when that happened. I was not.
Well, and also since I have you here, Dorito, I flatly told Lumi, screw you for doing what you did to Dorito.
This is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you. I'm over here like, man, so many people fucked me up, and I'm just like, man, I think all of y'all should just hold hands and collectively get diarrhea or something.
I've already
That's
had
all.
it, okay?
Oh goodness, are your brawlers also killing you? That's nice.
I think it's more of the stress. But okay, let's get back down to brass tacks here. While I think that Mali came in here hot and heated, looking more like they wanted to vent at me than anything else, I do think that some of the things they're saying have valid criticism. Obviously, Ponder's list does, whether we continue those accountability calls or not. I need to figure out how to wrap that up if I even need to. And I guess that's part of my struggle here, because I feel like I need to, but I don't really know if I need to. I want the server to be a place where people feel safe. But okay, so who here's read Chronicles of Narnia?
Nope. Not in a long time.
Every single one of you is uncultured. Okay, so
I can't read.
you can read. You are a Warrior Cats obsessor. You are not going to lie to me like that.
I listen to the audiobook.
Aren't Warrior Cats and Thundercats the same things?
I will crucify you.
Well, I mean, they both have clans. They both like the sort of.
I will take you out back and I will beat you like a dirty rug.
No, what are you talking about? I've read so many Thundercats books. They started the series called Into the Wild.
First off, Warrior Cats is not furry nonsense. Thank you.
Yes, it is.
I mean, technically it is, but we're getting into the weeds.
Yeah, no,
Let's
sorry.
get back to the main things here. Let's get on to the main thing here. God, where was I going now? I'm lost on that.
You were saying
Narnia.
Okay, so in Narnia, there's a giant lion named Aslan. He's not even a Christ metaphor. He just literally is by the end of the books. And somebody asks, "Is Aslan safe?" And the character laughed and said, "Safe? No, he's a lion, but he's good." Him being good overrides whether or not he's safe. Safe in the sense that he's obviously a danger for the people who are evil, the wicked people. I'm trying to meet that to where the people here know I'm a threat to the things that want to hurt them, but know that I'm not a threat to them. And even in these cases, that's a struggle for me, because as Ponder has put, sometimes just people look at me as big, scary lion man, and that's not what I want to be to decent people. To horrible people, yeah, I will own that, and I will eat that 24/7. But to decent people, that's not what I want to be. So I need to figure out how to do that. If not having accountability calls in the server now or in the future is something we don't need to do, then that's fine. If we have to do things privately, that's also fine. My main concern for gallery calls was that the audience may bring up things we don't know, or that, if they've done something public, I think it needs to be answered in public. If that's not a positive to get what is necessary or get closure for a victim, then we don't need to do it. And if you got background noise, please mute until you need to talk. Asuka.
Yes.
I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you. You have background noise.
Sorry, my fiance is playing a tank game right now.
Beat him up.
True.
Okay, so I'll still sleep on it just by the nature of the fact that I don't like making immediate decisions, because Lord knows that's gotten me into trouble literally every single time I've done it. But I think that the concerns you brought up, Ponder, and the concerns that Mali's brought up to a point are valid. So if that's not a way that's going to fix things, give people closure, or help victims, I don't, despite Mali thinking that this is a blood sports thing, blood sports is the lamest, dumbest thing in the world. I'm not interested in having that here.
My main concern is I think the line between good and bad is very thin, and we're gonna have to learn the differences.
I don't think it's as thin as people think, but I understand what you're getting at. So, as it sits right now, I'm leaning towards Mali's value on the gallery calls. but I'm just trying to. I want to help people, so how do I do it?
In private.
Yeah.
With the
I would-
proper resources and help. Accept the help, old man.
My worry is not to boast of my own ego, but it's like the example with the lacquer. It's not even a situation. The lacquer moment where like people were like brigading on lacquer for literal like falsities and non-realities. Like that needs to never happen again. Like that needs to be cut out.
It's going to happen sometime. We just need to make sure the mods keep a closer eye on it.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
The biggest thing, again, because you're not inundated with the lore, the problem is Laka has had some sordid history about their level of honesty. So I can understand people putting some shit on that. That's why when you brought it to me, like, well, I don't know if I trust Laka. It wasn't because, well, Laka might possibly be causing a problem with a friend of mine, therefore I don't trust them. It's because Laka has had a history of dishonesty. That's why I didn't trust Laka.
You know, that's valid, but like there's the sense of distrust. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example. There's certain people in the glitch cell situation that I have distrust for, but I will hear them out. I will take a second and be like, okay, let's see what they have to say. Let's see how they would go about it. And then ask for evidence, ask for proof, and they'll provide it. And then go from there. Because it's fine with like the Senate. There's nothing wrong with skepticism. Again, one of my points was there needs to be more skepticism. Like if you post a video, I post a video, Mali posts a video, just because we said it doesn't mean we're telling the truth. Even though that's what people would assume. People need to be more skeptic, but it's the line of being skeptic and then calling someone emotionally manipulative.
Yeah, and I think part of the problem is because not 80% of this server is on the spectrum. Like, they're gonna need to be cat herded in the right direction.
Yes,
you know?
Definitely.
So that's what I'm looking at long term. I do need to be able to not have to be in here every day. Right now, things are still a mess because I thought once I dropped the video, I could finally take a break. I couldn't take a break. Today alone, I was in 5 different calls. Let me see here. I'll actually make a point of this. That was fine. We're getting mad about the Izzy call. I think the Izzy call was fine. People are dumb. And again, it was because Leia and that PV person covered it.
Huh?
Hold on.
Well, when it comes to those topics in general, I think we should just tighten the rules a bit more. Because people do run around a bit too willy-nilly with a lot of different claims, and people do get the wrong idea pretty often. So I think we should just put in tighter rules to make sure that people understand what the actual point of some of the channels are.
By the way, I think a jokey rule we need to have is not have Crystal be the recorder, because I forget that I'm recording, then I listen to music and I'm like, oh shit, I'm recording, then I get sad that I can't listen to music.
Don't worry.
Okay, so here's what I'm gonna get at. Okay, so Dorito, you remember when I messaged you today?
Dorito?
Yeah, yes. Sorry, hello. Sorry, yes.
Take a guess how many people have been in my DMs since now and then.
Girl, I do not know. Knowing you, it's probably anywhere from like 5 to 50.
23.
20?
And every single one of them, it's something serious. It's never, hey, question about nerd stuff. And this has been my daily. It's
like, listen, Laya, Ufi, I'm being completely real. I think you should just, yes, also got Turbo here. You should just stop, man. Just stop.
How do I stop? These people need help.
I know, but at the same time, like, I don't think you're the right person to help them, and that combined with the fact that's probably not helping you, it's probably killing you, man. Like, just no.
Well, these aren't even always separate incidents. These are sometimes things directly connected to me. So how am I not supposed to help them?
Lio, you told me. You told me that if it was hurting, I should stop helping certain people. You should do the same.
Exactly.
Yeah, but at the same time, I I need to get the mod staff, including you guys, on the same page to where I'm not dragged in every time there's a conflict.
Well, then you can give us the TLDR, and good is you don't have to completely
That's not-
involve yourself every time.
And accept the help.
Exactly.
If I thought you guys could help with it, you don't think I'd reach out?
Okay, that is not a good point to say from your side.
Yeah, that does seem like a catch-22, being like, hey, I want you guys to help, but like you guys can't help.
Hold on. I want the server to be moderated without me having to be in every conflict. I'm not talking about just like helping me on the outside, but like here in the server as well. We all need to be on the same page. We've got to learn not to blow up every single disagreement into a massive catastrophe. We've got to be able to bend when we need to. What I'm saying, like, you guys can't always help me. Like, who here can help me with the fact that people are blaming me for Susie being gone? Nobody. Not a single person here can help me with that.
We can literally point to the video.
You're not. It doesn't matter. The video doesn't matter when people assign blame. That's my point. Because these are people Susie knows. These are people that are her friends. That's the type of stuff I'm dealing with. I've got people that I go ahead.
Okay, look. Oh god, Crystal, you have to fucking help me word my shit because I do not know how to word things again. But like, I'm just like, so let them believe that. Like, what else can you do? What is there that you can do? Like, changing people's mind is just like, it's kind of hard. Like, if people who are Susie's friends are blaming you for Susie leaving, what can you do? Like, if it's literally in the video that it's not the case, there's nothing you can do. There literally is nothing you can do.
It was
and at some point, it's just like, I know stop worrying about it's not easy. I'm trying to figure out a better way to say it, but just like, I'm trying to figure out the nice way to say basically let it go or like
I'll frame
stop
it
worrying.
in this way. You know when I made my video, not my video, my thread on Peaches, and people were saying, "Oh, you're framing Peaches out to be a predator. You're doing this and doing that," and like that's kind of the Senate ran with. That's the only bit I disproved before I made my video, right? That's the only bit I was like, okay, that is the main point I need to disprove. Done. I can't go into semantics. I can't get into every single call and disprove it. Or get into a text chat, text back and forth to disprove anything. People are going to believe falsities, and that's sadly just a matter of the fact of just how it's going to be. While these people are saying outrageous things, you can just be like, please watch the video again, or send them a clip from the video just to disprove it. Because again, Susie literally said that they were planning to take a step away themselves. That's their word. You have this. Like, God, I don't know why I'm getting like very. Please excuse my tone. I don't know where that came from. It was the idea of like you have literally wanted them to stay in a close group, you know, so they're not isolating themselves. It's literally the contrary of what people are saying. Like even like terrible example, but even LAIR knows that you wanted Doodles to stay. Like LAIR is aware of it, so if LAIR can work it out, then other people should be able to.
It's not they're blaming me as in they think I'm the one making them go away. They're blaming me because Susie didn't allegedly have to deal with any of this until I came around.
I think also it has to do that certain people will have I think it's confirmation biases.
Yes.
Yeah, no matter what you're going to tell them, even though you're going to have a mountain of proof that it has nothing to do with you, they're just not gonna want to hear you out. And sadly, those people, and Dorito was trying to say to voice it in a nicer way, but the harsh truth is sometimes that you cannot do anything.
Sometimes you just
Sometimes
shouldn't do
it's
anything
just
because it's just not good for you.
Okay.
It's just like you just mentioned like 23 people in your DMs all about serious shit. You're just one guy. You're one guy. That cannot be healthy for you. Like at all.
Also, besties, I'm just gonna
But
make sure.
who's supposed to help them?
I know,
themselves.
I know, but it's just sometimes you just
Yeah,
In some of these situations, there is just nothing that can be done. Sometimes you just have to sit those claims out. Usually
Sometimes you're
there's
just not
pass
the
of
right
time.
person.
Here's
like-
the. Sorry, I did not mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
What I was about to say is that I was told this once, and it's the biggest